الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. So we are on page 113 on a new lesson with Surah Al-Falaq. Surah Al-Falaq, Surah number 113 in the Quran. Let's read, please. Read the surah first. Surah Al-Falaq. You guys know where this thing is?
قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق.
قل أعوذ.
قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
Let's read الكلمات الجديدة.
الكلمات الجديدة. غاسق وقب يقب النفاثات العقد حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق أوجد يوجد أظلم يظلم
No. أظلم
يظلم الفلق نفث ينفث زوال النافخات الساهرات عقد يعقد ربط يربط. الكلمات الجديدة. غاسق وقب يقلب النفاثات العقد حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق أوجد يوجد أظلم يظلم الفلق نفث ينفث زوال الساحرات عقد يعقد ربطا يربط
غاسق وقب يقبل النفاثات العقد حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق أوجد يوجد أظلم يظلم الفق نفث ينفث زوال النافخات الساحرات عقد يعقد ربط يربط
غاسق وقب يقب النفاثات العقد حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق أوجد يوجد أظلم يظلم الفلق نفث ينفث زوال
النافخات
أو النافخات الساهرات عقد يقبض ربط
الكلمات الجديدة غاسق وقب يقب النفاثات العقد حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق أوجد يوجد أظلم يظلم الفلق نفث ينفث زوال النافخات الساحرات عقد يعقد ربط يربط
مصطفى.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الكلمات الجديدة غاسق وقب يقب النفاثات العقد حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق أوجد يوجد أظلم يظلم الفلق نفث ينفث زوال النافخات الساحرات عقد يعقد ربط يربط.
The surah. Read the surah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
Move on.
كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. معاني الكلمات: الفلق الصبح، خلق أوجد، غاسق ليل، وقب الليل، أظلم الليل،
أظلم
الليل، النفاثات النافخات من الساكرات، نفث نفخ، النفاث العقد من عقد الحبل، ربط حسد أحب ذهاب نعمة عن الناس.
الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. معاني الكلمات: الفلك الصبح، خلق أوجد، غاسق ليلا، نقم الليل، أظلم الليل، النفاثات، النافخات من الساحرات، نفخا، النفاث، العقد من عقد الحبل، ربطه، حسد، أحب ذهاب النعمة عن الناس.
كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. معاني الكلمات: الفلق الصبح، خلق أوجد، غاسق ليل، وقب الليل، أظلم الليل، النفاثات، النافخات من الساحرات، نفث، نفخ، النفاث، العقد من عقد الحبل، ربطه، حسد، أحب ذهاب النعمة عن الناس.
فاطمة.
كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. معنى الكلمات: الفلق الصبح، خلق أوجد، غاسق ليل، قبل الليل، قبل الليل، أظلم الليل، والنفاثات، النافخات من الساحرات، نفث، نفخ، النفاث، العقد من عقد الحبل، ربطه، حسد، أحب ذهاب النعمة عن الناس.
إيمان.
كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. معاني الكلمات: الفلق الصبح، خلق أوجد، غاسق ليلا، وقب الليل، أظلم الليل، النفاثات، النافخات،
من الساحرات.
الحبل ربطه حسد أحب النعمة عن الناس.
كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. معاني الكلمات: الفلق الصبح، خلق أوجد، غاسق ليل، وقب الليل، أظلم الليل، النفاثات النافقات من الساحرات نفث نفخ، النفاث العقد من عقد الحبل ربطه حسد أحب ذهاب النعمة عن الناس.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Surah Al-Falaq. What does falaq mean? Here they said Al-Falaq is as-subh, and typically when you look at any common English translation it says the break of dawn. So what does this have to do with the actual verb falaqa, which is the root of this word? Falaqa means to cut in half, to sever something, chop it.
What did you say people often give as the definition? The break of dawn?
That's the name of the surah, the break of dawn, but we're talking about the verb now. So always take the word back to its verbal form, verbal root. Yeah, so according to some interpretations, it's as-subh. Also, it's falaq is the name of a flat piece of land in between two hills. That's called falaq. There's an interpretation that says this particular surah is named after rivers. Of course, none of those are very common, but you will see that when you read the books of tafsir. And it is also said that al-falaq was the word that Allah taught Moses when he split the sea for him. So you're going to find multiple things about what this actually means. So now if you were to look up falaq in your Hansware or in Ma'ani, what do you think you're going to come up with?
Just a bird.
The break of dawn.
What else?
Falaq is to split, cleave, rive, tear asunder, to break, dispel the shadows of night, to crack or to create a fissure.
Yeah, so keep that in mind, the issue of severing and cutting when you think of this surah. It's very interesting actually because this surah is going to talk about magic. I haven't thought about this before, but it just occurred to me. And the way they do magic is they usually, this surah, as per this surah, they tie knots. And the way to undo the magic is to cut the knots and sever them. I don't know if that has anything to do with this surah whatsoever. It's just interesting. So it says, Al-Falaq, it is interpreted as subh, the morning time, and it also is interpreted as anything that has been severed or cut or cracked from the creation of God. Allah says, Inna Allah faliqul habbi wan nawa. He uses this verb form in its in a faliq is like fa'il, the actor. Allah is the one that breaks open seeds. Faliq al-isbah, he breaks open the day with the break of dawn. Okay, let's see what other things the tafsir tell us about al-falaq. You guys excited or not yet?
Yes.
I'm actually really interested to hear more about this surah.
Okay. It says the morning, and the reason being, this is from Tafsir al-Baghawi, the reason being is because the nighttime is severed when daytime comes in. It's also said that it's everything that God opens up or cuts open. Just like when the soil is cracked and the vegetation comes out. Just like when rain breaks open, the clouds break open and rain falls. Just like mountains break open and springs of water come out. Just like wombs break open and children come out. So on and so forth. It's also said that this is a canyon in the hellfire. A canyon or a deep pit in the fire.
The valley.
Jub. This is interesting. It says when some of the Sahaba went up north to the Levant, they saw the homes and the palaces of the people of the book and how easy their life was and how they were the elites of society, how easy going their life was. So he says, I don't even care because behind them is falaq. So they said, and what is falaq? He says, a house in hell, if it was to be opened, everybody in the hellfire would shout and scream due to the severity of its heat. It's very interesting how the Sahaba used to look at things. They used to actually look with like the lens of reality. So they see someone who's living in pleasures and they don't actually say, wow. They say, what? What is gonna come after them? They have a narration that Umar ibn al-Khattab, he saw how the monks would worship. They were dedicated in the monasteries. And he started crying. He said, why are you crying? He says, I remembered the statement of Allah, وُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاصِبَةٌ وُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ. What did he say? هَلْ أَتَاكَ حَدِيثُ الْغَاشِيَةِ وُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَاشِعَةٌ عَامِلَةٌ نَاصِبَةٌ. He says, I remembered that ayah. He says, on that day there will be faces that are khashi'ah, although in this life they were amilatun nasiba, doing a lot of works, doing a lot of acts, and performing and offering, and so on and so forth, but it's going to be a cause of their misery because it wasn't done properly. So now he's looking at who? Worshippers. He's not looking at people who are in the strip club. So just imagine that they used to see with a reality lens. Now, most people, they look and they're like, oh, that's so peaceful. You even have some Muslims, they go to church and they say, wow, I felt such tranquility. You know. Again, we're so far away from how the Sahaba used to see things. It's very, very sad. May Allah open our eyes to see reality. Okay, that's Falaq for you. So that's the name of the surah. It has multiple meanings. So what are some of the meanings that come to mind right now? The first one, the common one. Let's stay with the status quo because everyone knows it as that. What is it? The break of dawn, morning time. Okay, but now if we're going to take it back to its verbal root. So now this means you're actually done some research. You're like, falaqa means to do what? Sever, and to cut in half and to crack open. Right? So what does that do? The day cracks open. Right? What else does it do? Anything in the creation of Allah that cracks open. The soil cracks open and the seeds come out. Right? The clouds crack open and rain falls down. The mountains crack open and water springs out. Right? Everything in Allah's creation that goes through this action of falaq. Seeds, they open up and that's how the plant comes out. What else? It's a canyon or a pit in the hellfire. May Allah protect us from the hellfire. Okay. The next word is ghasiq. So ghasiq comes from the verbal noun ghasaqa.
Actually, how do we know that Falaq is the name of the camera?
We have a narration in tafsir that says that.
Can you tell us what it is? Can you tell us what it is?
What do you mean?
The narration.
I just read it.
Yeah, I know. I didn't catch it.
Okay, it just says a canyon in the hellfire. Or a pit in it, and it comes from that which is flat on the earth. We said in between two hills is a falaq, right? And then we said the narration about the Sahabi who saw the people of the book having ease in life, and he says they're going to have a falaq. They're going to have a falaq.
What is, maybe we'll get to this, but I've noticed this, the word
Qul, yes?
means say.
Yeah, command.
Oh, command.
It's a command, say, yani Allah is commanding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Qul ya Muhammad, a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. So Allah is instructing him about what to say.
Does that apply to us as well?
By extension. Yes, by extension it applies to us that this is how we are supposed to seek protection from Allah. And so these two surah are used as protection. These are the main two surah for spiritual protection. So this is like what you want to apply when you're doing ruqya on yourself. These two surah. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ regularly read them. Okay, so ghasaqa. Ghasaqa. Ghasaqa is the darkness of the night. So that's one meaning, and another meaning for ghasiq is the moon. So you'll find that in the tafsir.
Dark as the moon.
Is the moon. Ghasiq. Ghasiq is the moon specifically when it goes dark. So it's there, but sometimes it just becomes dark. We'll go back here.
basically new moon.
Not new moon, no.
Is it when the moon goes dark as the new moon? Dark side.
So there is a hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells Aisha. He pointed to the moon and he says, "Ista'idhi billahi min sharri hadha." Ask God's protection from the evil of that. فَإِنَّهُ الْغَاسِقُ إِذَا وَقَبْ, because it is غَاسِق إِذَا وَقَبْ. He actually took her hand. He took her hand and he made her point at it. Again, this is another form of teaching. Prophet ﷺ would do that. He would utilize holding people's hands. He would utilize having some type of interaction with them. That leaves an impact on the person when they learn. You know, we have like teaching tools. So if I was to tell you, I remember this happened this week actually. I forgot to mention it to you guys. On Friday in the training, we had something related to family systems. That was the training title, family systems. So it's a particular type of therapy based on family and the person's extended relationships. So they don't just look at the person individually, rather they try to unpack everything about this person's life because we're a product of our environment. So last year in the MJ conference, the imams had a training on family therapy, and it was specific on this this topic called family systems. It was the first time I heard of it. It makes sense when you hear it, and I've shared the video with some of you guys. It's public, so it's not like private. You can look it up, but if you're interested, send me something. I don't know if we shared it, so if Sarah is listening to this, if you can just send me an email and I'll send it so you can add it to the resource.
Is it the 6 hour long?
It's a 6 hour long session. So what was interesting is we were mostly looking at instruction, and it was like 20, I want to say maybe 30 to 40 imams that attended that. So this was after the conference. And it was very interesting. So this training, the lady that came, she said, I'm going to try to cover this. The session we have is like an hour and a half. But what she did was do an exercise. And I felt the exercise helped drive the point home more than the 6 hours that we experienced. So there are some skills that are there in education which really leave an impact. So what was it? You read a case. It's a case that you read. And then she said, we're going to do, what did she say? So she did a graph. I don't know what she called it, but a graph of the family. So like she draws the family in a graph. If you don't know the scenario, you have no idea what the drawing is. Because it's like mother, father, and then siblings and stuff like that. And there's certain things that connect it. And then she says, we're going to do a sculpture of the family. I'm like, what is that? With me, I'm already paranoid. Sculpture. We just read Man Kasar al-Asnam, right? We spent like months on Man Kasar al-Asnam. Sculpture is the last thing that I want. But what she did was select and choose from the people, the trainees, people to assume roles in that family. And then she made them simply stand in certain ways that would depict a highlight of the scenario we studied. So like there was the son, one of the sons and his older brother, and they were together. There was this absent father that was there, and he's kind of like at a distance, but he's just returned and he's trying to assume his role. There was the so I was appointed as the smaller brother, and I was down, and it was simply said, raise your hand, like motion to them that you're trying to have a connection, right? And then there was the smallest girl, another woman was appointed as that, and she's sitting on the floor. Nobody looks at her because she's so low. So, and then so I think we were about 10 people were the ones that depicted the story with the main characters. And then one trainee was asked to go and stand where that person is and look at the scenario from that location. So look at what this child who's like asking for attention is doing. Look at this father who has issues and he's coming back and trying to assume his role. Look at the mom who just died, who's kind of like far away. Look at the grandma who died. It was very powerful, I thought. And I can still remember it. Now, if you were to tell me about the family system seminar for 6 hours, I would tell you watch the seminar. But this exercise is fresh. Now, I don't know how long I can keep the exercise, but I thought it was very interesting. And the reason I'm mentioning this is how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a lot of the hadith, you notice that he taught people utilizing certain things. And again, they didn't have like major technology. Like I remember when we were going to school, I think they started in the 70s probably with PowerPoint presentations. And like the teachers who were utilizing it were like, wow, special. And they had the plastic slides. I don't know if you guys remember them. It wasn't on the computer, but like they actually had a plastic slide and they would switch it. And it's like, wow, he's using an educational tool, right? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
They were called transparencies, right?
Yeah, that's what they were called. Yes. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they didn't have much. He would sit they were sitting on the floor and they were sitting around him, and he would take a stick and he would draw a line, and he would say, "What is this?" He would question them to kind of bring about their curiosity, and people would say different things. And then he would draw lines next to it on both sides. And he did this multiple times. In another occasion, he draws a square. And, he's trying to depict an image for them. And now when we read it, we got no clue because we're reading it in a book form. But just imagine experiencing that and how it becomes a vivid memory in your mind. Also, he would tell them about, like the famous narration about, give me a tree that resembles the believer. And he says all the Sahaba were, giving different trees from the desert because that's their environment. They were talking about, different. And one of them, which was a young man, Abdullah ibn Umar, he guessed that it was the palm tree. But he says, I was embarrassed that all the elders are talking all this stuff and I had this, but I kept it to myself. And then the Prophet ﷺ, basically when they all didn't get it, he says it was the palm tree. So Abdullah ibn Umar tells his father on the side, and the father's like, I wish you spoke because I'd have been so proud of you, right? But look now, Abdullah ibn Umar is mentioning this story to us. But right now, if we're not familiar with like different trees and we were to talk about trees, it wouldn't really make sense to us because we're city people. If we were to talk about animals, we wouldn't know anything. We've never been around live animals. The closest we've been to is like the Discovery Channel. It was like, yeah, I watch all the BBC documentaries. Which ones? Reproduction of the monkeys. And why is that? Right? Because, I can't watch other things. So, that's what happens. People are very curious.
That just settled in my mind.
I got that.
Huh?
It sounded a little bit.
No.
Little?
It sounded a little weird.
Weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, I let you think about it. You don't have to comment right now.
Yeah,
Just
I
think
thought
about it.
And then I was like, oh.
So all human beings, they go through a stage where they become extremely interested in this thing called, reproduction, because that's how their bodies are functioning. So any information about reproduction, it's so weird. It's like how dinosaurs reproduced. What do you care? They went extinct. Like, if you learn about them right now, what does that help you with? This is exactly how you're going to get extinct if you follow what the dinosaurs are doing. But anyway, the point is learning, having this type of practical learning. The Prophet ﷺ utilized it. And unfortunately, because we're in a classroom, we don't really get to do much of that. Most of the things right now, the best thing we can do is utilize imagination, right? So each one of us kind of imagines the scenario, but beyond that, we're limited. Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that hadith that you were saying that Rasul said about pointing the
This one, he took Aisha's hand and he pointed it at the moon and he told her, Ista'idhi billahi min sharri hada. Seek Allah's protection from the harm of this. فَإِنَّهُ الْغَاسِقُ إِذَا وَقَبْ. Because it is al-ghasiq إِذَا وَقَبْ. And we said ghasaqa means to be dark. When something goes dark, especially it's the darkness of the night. Ghasaqul layl. Okay, so that's ghasiq.
What is it?
Darkness of the night.
Waqaba.
We haven't gotten to waqab yet.
No, in the hadith you
Yes, so that's the next word. So right now we're about to talk about waqab. Yes.
We skip خلق. Definition for أوجد.
Where's khalaq?
Above it.
So we're on the first page. We're on the first page. Go ahead.
Kalimatul jadida, the box.
And all in the same time.
Yeah.
I was trying to.
You were tripping while sitting down?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It's possible.
And you think monkeys reproducing is weird, right?
No.
Tripping while sitting down is really weird.
That thought made me trip too.
Waqaba. Al-waqbu, so if it's a noun, so waqaba is a verb, but the noun is like a opening, kind of like in a wall. Just a little opening in a wall. So they say waqabat al-shams, so as a verb, when the sun disappears, you say waqabat, yani ghabat. It no longer is seen. It's no longer seen. So that's waqaba yaqibu, which is the verb form. Okay. Go back to the tafsir.
Were you saying about a hole in the wall?
Al-waqbu, the noun is a hole in the wall. Okay. What was I reading earlier? That's very strange. I thought I was reading Baghawi. I guess I wasn't.
So you said waqaba yaqibu is when the light of the sun disappears.
Yes. Oh, we were reading Kashaf. No, not Kashaf. Something else. I don't know what we were reading, but it just disappeared. SubhanAllah.
You know what they're thinking?
It's waqaba.
Waqaba.
Yes. Yeah, so Tabari, which has more narrations, it says Al-Falaq is a prison in the hellfire. That's not pleasant at all. One of the names of the hellfire. So that's Falaq. Others said it's the morning. Okay.
A prison?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I mean, the whole hellfire is a prison, but then you got a dungeon within a prison. It's like solitary confinement is a small room. They call it the shoe within the prison.
That's so scary.
May Allah protect us. Yes, we don't even want to imagine that. غاسق إذا وقب من شر مظلم إذا دخل. So from the evil of something dark when it approaches us. Something dark when it approaches us. So the night as it approaches, you want to ask Allah for protection from that. Why? Because it carries with it other things. Typically that moment is when jinn kind of go have fun. You know, like it's recess. You know, like when the children here, recess time, what happens? They just spread out. So when the sun sets, the jinn have recess. They just go out. So that's why we're taught, as that happens, you bring in our little children. They can have recess at Maghrib time.
So there is
Only for a period of time, and then they can go out at night. Nothing wrong with going out at night. You know, for some reason, I don't know where people got this from, is that they say you can't be outside the house after sunset. And they say especially for women. I don't know where that came from. Because the women used to pray Isha in the Prophet's masjid. And Isha would be late. And they would pray Fajr as well. So it has nothing to do with dark. But the thing is specific to children. Because children are less immune to spiritual problems because they can't do their own adhkar. Like the parents have to give them immunization. That's why the dua of the Prophet to the children was أُعِيذُكُمَا بِكَلِمَاتِ اللَّهِ التَّامَّةِ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ وَهَمَّةٍ وَمِنْ كُلِّ عَيْنٍ لَامَّةٍ. You have to do fortification for the children. But as adults, we do our own fortification before sunset and then we can go out. Because it's like, just imagine this, if everybody got to be in as the sun sets, who's going to do Maghrib in the masjid? Poor Imam with the jinn? Right? So like, people have some very strange understanding. So it's children specifically. And what is the definition of a child in Islam? Under puberty is a child. After puberty, they're no longer children. But you also got to teach them to take care of themselves spiritually. To put their spiritual armor, which is their adhkar, their evening adhkar. Yes?
Actually, you just clarified something for me because I always thought it was just like some cultural thing. Because in my family, my big grandma would always tell me you have to come inside at Maghrib time because the Jinni Mamuji is out, which is basically like the Uncle Jinn.
The Uncle Jinn?
Yeah.
He's not my Mamuji. I don't know what. That's a strange relationship.
And I would always be like, why? And they'd be like, no, you can't go outside. Or if I was outside, I would have to.
So when I'm outside now, my baby tells me, Baba, if you go outside, the shaitan will eat you. I'm like, no, he can't mess with me. I have my adhkar. You know?
Is there specifically something?
And they make that up. I never taught them the shaitan will eat you. I just said shaitan is outside. You got to go in. So you got to see that when we bring them in, like, come back, come inside. Mama, come inside. I'm like, why? Shaitan is out. I'm like, it's okay. I can handle him, inshallah. But see, that's good. You have to teach them and don't lie to them.
Uncle Jimmy's out.
Not uncle, no, his name is Shaitan specifically.
I thought for a second she said jinn emoji. I'm like, alright.
This is a millennial, only a millennial.
It's a jinn emoji, I was saying.
Jinn emoji, yes, go on. Astaghfirullah. Yes. You have anything?
Oh, I was asking actually, is there anything related to trees and at night? Because we were also told that we shouldn't walk under trees or around trees during that period of time.
That like the jinn live in the trees.
They hang out there.
They hang out, and so if you walk under them at night, like the jinn are basically gonna
No, I don't know anything like that.
Do the jinn live in the trees?
They live in different places. They live in multiple places. But the point behind this particular narration is to protect your home. So it says, as the sun sets, you close your doors with the name of Allah, because the name of Allah will be a boundary. You shut your, you cover your utensils with, and you mention the name of Allah. You cover your pots and you mention the name of Allah. And this way, when you come in and you close the door with the name of Allah, they don't enter in with you. If you mention the name of Allah as you eat, they don't eat with you, and so forth. So the whole point is for protection. You know, although we don't necessarily see those things, but we believe in them.
Chef, people make jokes about those sort of things. So I heard one joke where they said, you know, people who eat a lot and stay skinny, it's because they don't see the smell they eat. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a hadith that says the believer eats with one intestine, and the disbeliever and the hypocrite, they eat with 7. So that's not a joke, it's real. So there's no barakah to the food. I mean, when you read about some of the Sahaba, they would just eat like a date, and that is it. That was a meal. Right now, that's unheard of. People complain right now in Ramadan if we don't have a lot of food. And it's supposed to be the month of refraining from food. But that memo has not reached us yet. May Allah guide us.
We have like a class or like just a small debrief on like gym culture. And
Gym?
Gym culture.
Gym?
Yeah. So basically like this whole idea of gym culture, like bulking up, like eating like a lot, just so that you can go to the gym for a few hours, and like the more you eat, like the better it like, or the more muscle you'll grow.
Like carbo loading?
Even for sisters?
Yeah.
So,
And it's just like
Seriously?
yeah.
Sisters want to be buff?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
trend. They want to have like fake muscles because if a
I'm
guy
not gonna
can
be
do it, the girls
explicit
can do
as
it.
to what specifically sisters want to grow, but yeah, it's very much a part of sisters' culture. They don't necessarily want to.
I feel so sheltered. You just stabbed me in the heart right now. Seriously? I thought this was only like a guy's thing.
So basically, in order to fake an hourglass figure, like girls will especially work their like upper back and like
Lower.
back to like fake that like idea, and like even just for guys as well, like this whole idea of like eating so much, it's like so against like Islam. And then if you think about like spending hours and hours in the gym, obviously you can be doing something productive, like listening to a podcast or something. But it's just
Well, you can. The problem is you're also seeing a lot of things. I don't see anyone in the gym, or I haven't heard because I don't really go. They got me a membership, but I'm like, nah, I ain't going.
They got you a membership, Jim.
Yeah, my manager got me a membership. But it's scary. You walk in there, it's like, what are they doing? This is like, it's.
Torture machine.
I mean, I haven't been to a nightclub, but if I was to imagine what a nightclub looks like, it's probably similar.
yeah, there's spin classes where they have like disco lights and like
Oh,
loud
shit.
music.
And they're just spinning.
And people not wearing clothes is exactly like what I would imagine a nightclub.
Yeah. So that's definitely very problematic. But again, in order for me, I mean, to address this, I'm gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings because I mean, where do you start with the attire that people wear to the gym?
Go for it,
Right.
Jim. Hurt as many people's feelings as
Odd tires are instigating.
Which reminds me, by the way, do you guys feel I am intimidating in class? Like, are you scared? Do you feel I alienate you and make you feel uncomfortable?
Make us think. Me and Mona were discussing the other day about like conferences and organizations and stuff, like Muslim organizations and stuff. She was like, both of us were like, since Chef Ahmed Khoury's class, if we look at things with more, like we're more critical of things before we just like go ahead and do things. Always like think like, okay, but like you have to look at things.
Is
with
that
all
good?
aspects. Yeah.
You find that being good?
Yeah. I think being more critical of things is better sometimes.
Okay.
You're not intimidating, like in
But
a
you're
bad
also
way.
asking a very specific group of your students.
Well, I mean, one reason being is that you guys are first year students. So typically a lot of the topics I would not necessarily open up in first year, but when we started the year, there was a lot of people in class. And I thought it would be good. I mean, like I told you before, in year 5, a lot of the popular culture things, they're not even aware of them because they don't follow the trends. They're too busy, I guess, studying and working. At least some of them are, you know, but that's why they made it. I mean, this is a very intensive program. So sometimes I'll bring things up because I know that they have relationships with students, current students, or their colleagues that they studied with. But for you guys, a lot of you are still in it, and some of you are, you know, you're just beginning to be exposed to it. And it's good to just have, you know, a different idea, because when things just become normalized, we think, yeah, we just, this is how we're supposed to be. And we don't give it, you know, a second thought. But the point is never to, you know, hurt people, because we're in this together. We're one team. I don't want you to feel like, you know, we're like in competition here. I learn from you guys and what you share, and I hope that I bring some type of content that would help you see things differently. But I would hate for anyone in our class to believe that I am picking on them or on things that they like or people that they appreciate. That's not the purpose behind this. But it is, as you mentioned, to make us be a little more critical and learn before we just join the latest fad and, you know, just jump on people's bandwagons and stuff like that. But please, if you do feel that way, I mean, let me know and help me to improve in how I can cater to you guys, which is, you know, my main. I mean, I spend a big amount of time with you guys. I told you that already. My wife feels jealous. She's like, I wish I can be in your class just so I can hear you talk, because you don't talk at home. I'm like, yeah, I've been talking all day. Like, I get sick and tired of talking. So I hope that my talking to you guys is not causing people to, be uneasy or feel, what's the word that was mentioned? Not marginalized. There was a word that somebody said, but it's not really our student, but somebody said it.
But Sheikh, you only ever provide like valid critiques. Like you don't just give random critiques for the sake of it. It always has like a reason.
Well, yeah, but somebody can say, yeah, I'm just making this stuff up, so. Yeah, let me just check this, sorry. No, sorry. Alienate, that's the word that was used. Alienate, it alienates some people. I looked up the word. I didn't feel like I'm alienating people. I like to engage with people, but somebody said that. Okay, and naffathat is feminine plural for naffatha. And naffatha, you can turn it back to the masculine, naffath, which is a word that's going to come up. But it comes from nafatha. Nafatha. And nafatha is similar to nafasa. Nafas is to breathe. That's your nafas. Tanaffasa. So nafatha is similar to breathing. The thing that makes it a bit distinct is that you blow some moisture out with the air, as opposed to regular breathing. Regular breathing is just air coming in and out. This one, some moisture comes out as well as you breathe out. So it's not spitting. Spitling, is that a word?
It says here to spit out, to cough out, to exhale, to puff out, to exude, or to transfuse.
Yeah, it says قَذْفُ الرِّيقِ الْقَلِيلِ. It's to just blow some moisture out with the air that you are exhaling.
Oh, is the word
And then spitting is called tafala. Tafala. So this is tafatha. If you were to spit, it's called tafala. And this action is related to two things. One is praiseworthy and treatment, and one is blameworthy and a sickness. Nafath al-raqi. When a person does ruqya, part of ruqya is for them to blow on the person. It could be yourself. You blow on yourself with moisture and then you rub that on your body. The Prophet ﷺ did that. And it could also be blowing on someone. You're like, man, that's disgusting. Well, yeah, if you think that's disgusting, then you're not going to get it. Right? But that's part of the treatment plan, is nafth. The other people who do nafth are magicians, sorcerers. As they do their magic spells, one of their methods is they also are saying prayers, but their prayers are not directed to Allah, they're directed to their demonic masters. So they will also say certain things, and they will also blow into the knots that they make in the magic spell that they're doing. And that's what this is referring to here. من شر النفاثات في العقد specifically. It's not من شر النفاثات. Interestingly enough also, and again, people can look at this in different ways, but the word used specifically is women who do this, which brings something up to light, is that a lot of magic is done by women folk. And so they are the ones who administer it, but also they're plenty of the ones who ask for it as well. This is not about being misogynistic. This is about reality, and this is about looking at human history as well. You know, but some people are like, you know, why are you saying about women? Well, I'm not saying, Allah said women here specifically. He didn't say the men. There are men magicians, but who does this more? At least for this chapter, it mentions them specifically.
So, Sheikh, if you, obviously a magician is outside of the fold of Islam, but if you hire a magician, so like, you're like, oh, this specific person I don't like them, so do something to them, and you pay them, are you outside the fold of Islam as well?
Does requesting magic services get a person outside the fold of Islam? I don't know right now. It depends on the person's belief, but it clearly is an explicitly forbidden practice. It's a clear haram and it's a major sin. Now, does it entail kufr or not? I would have to check on that. Nothing comes my mind right now. I know when you go to a fortune teller and you believe them, that's kufr. That's an action of kufr. If you don't believe in them, you just, checking them out, your salah won't be accepted for a period of time, and it's a major sin. So a fortune teller could be related to that. So if somebody believes in what they're doing, it could be, I don't know. I would have to check. May Allah protect us from doing that. Whoever does that is clearly somebody who's struggling with weak iman. Like they got major issues with their concept of who Allah is. They're not happy. Again, most people, the reason they do it is because there's some type of jealousy. That's why this surah mentions jealousy. It's typically some type of jealousy that they see something that they don't have and they want it to be removed from that person who's been given that gift. So they can't do it through their own means, so they go and they seek supernatural means. And this is extremely sick. I mean, that's a major disease in the heart. Yes?
It's not a serious question, but what if you hire a magician who doesn't really do like jinn-related magic, but for entertainment purposes?
A birthday party.
Yeah, like an illusionist, I guess you could say. Not that I'm interested in doing it,
People
but
who just perform tricks. It doesn't have, it's more like tricks of the eyes than it
Like
is
card
supernatural.
tricks.
But how do you know they're not dealing with a jinn?
oh, that's a good question.
They're Muslim. No, I'm just kidding. Like,
Shit is getting fired up.
I mean, yeah, sure. We have right now a Muslim Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. So we've made it, alhamdulillah. So I'm sure there's a Muslim magician out there. Yes, no doubt about it. I believe you.
What's the spice?
Yes.
but like,
She's wearing a burkini.
That is not working.
I typed it out and my phone wrote butkini. So somebody said, were you doing that intentionally? I said, no, but I guess that sounds about right.
It's just so sad. Like everybody's celebrating, and it's like
Because
even
they've made
like
it.
lying down on the floor. It's like
Because they've made it. But anyway, yes.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
You haven't seen it? Oh my God, you're missing out.
you don't want to see it.
So hold on. So the question here is
How did we get to swimsuit models?
because
Muslim magician.
Maz is telling us about the Muslim magician. So I was recently pleasantly shocked. Not pleasantly. No, sorry, that's not the right word. Like the opposite of pleasant. What do you?
Exasperated.
Like I was extremely upset because an organization locally invited me to their banquet.
Oh, another thing.
These banquets are traumatizing to me. Every single one, like I want to go to show support, and it's like, why am I here? So I go, and we have children, so only one of the children ended up coming with us, and there was a babysitting option. And they told us it costs money too. And I'm like, well, you guys are inviting me for free, so might as well invite my child too. Like, no, you gotta pay for babysitting. Okay, whatever. So I go to check out. My child is not leaving her mom, but anyway, I go to check out the thing, and it's a magic show. That's the babysitting. The magician did not look like he's child friendly.
Oh yeah, they had a magician at the
He was 6'5", and he looked like a gangster. I don't want to do racial profiling, but it didn't look right on so many things. And I'm like, you're bringing a magician to an Islamic organization's banquet. Who made this decision? Right? I was so upset. Alhamdulillah, my child did not get exposed to that, but I was just in shock. It's like, you have all these children, and he's like, do you guys want to do magic? And they're like, yeah, we want to do magic. He had a rabbit with him. I don't know what he did to that rabbit. But I think he was going to like put him in a hat or something. He was going to disappear. But it wasn't right, you know. And the children couldn't even understand him because of, I mean, these children are like preppy kids, Arab and Desis. And you bring an American, they can't even understand their language.
Why was 6'5" the first point to mention? What was that about?
Because the kids are like 2 feet tall.
And then
Child friendly. You should bring a midget magician to be on their level. Seriously. Or like a child magician, someone who's closer to them, but someone so big, that's so intimidating. I mean, I was scared.
Jim, you just said you should bring a magician.
Huh?
I just want to point out that you
yeah,
said
that's
that
just
you
not
should
bring
bring
a magician.
I said if they're gonna do that. If. For me, I would never think of something like that.
Yeah, we should post that. We should have midget magicians.
And for my next trip, I'm gonna get taller.
And this is how people get in trouble, you know. This is part of it. What is it called? You know, they say ableism. This is ableism.
Ableism?
Ableism,
I'll have to Google that.
which is when you are prejudiced against people with disabilities.
Okay.
You know, like you have ageism, you have all these isms.
So, actually, you know how you were saying that magicians are majority of people who do them are women? And actually, I was...
Well, this thing specifically here in this surah, that's what it's talking about.
But it's interesting because majority of Wiccans or people who follow Wiccan culture are also women.
Yes.
Which is like...
Yes. And they call themselves witches.
Yeah.
That's what they call
I
themselves.
actually got an ad for them once. I don't even know what I was watching. It was a whole ad about like thinking, being interesting, and the girl who came on, I might have told you guys before, was like, yeah, I'm a witch and I'm proud of it, and a lot of my friends are witches too.
Yes.
And she calls herself a herbalist witch. I don't know what that means. But
Organic.
organic gin.
So what they do is they work with herbs. They do a lot of things with herbs. So it's a part of something called you know, like you have popular culture, the opposite of popular culture, alternative culture, counterculture. Thank you. So countercultures, a lot of New Age religions are all countercultures because they're frustrated with the current status quo. So they want to do something opposite to that, and that's why Satanism becomes widespread, because they're like, we're so upset with the church and all they talk about is Satan. Okay, so we want to worship Satan to kind of like tell those people, you know, screw you.
Chef, I actually met a Satanist. I told you about this, and they're actually like. Okay, so in philosophy class we learned about what they call themselves. They call themselves ethical egoists. So basically, it actually has nothing to do with Satan, according to the Satanists I met. It's just about yourself, basically. It's about worrying about yourself, your desires, and being materialistic. Because they say that the devil represents like the lowest point a human can be at. So they call themselves Satanists because they're fulfilling their desires, which is like the lowest point you can be at. But they're not technically worshiping Satan. That's what
That is exactly what technically worshiping Satan is. I mean, it's just like the man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and he says, you're saying that the Jews and the Christians worship their priests and their rabbis. He says, I did not worship them. In his conceptualization is you kind of bow down to them, show homage to them. He says, did they not legalize that which God made illegal, and did they not make illegal that which God made lawful? It's like, yeah. He says that is their worship. So worship is obedience. That's why we said ibadah is obedience. It depends on who you take as your object of obedience. And that's why people like that, clearly they worship themselves. They worship their desires. They obey their desires. Okay, so that's a naffathat. So naffatha comes from this blowing some moisture as you exhale. Your question was about, whose question was about bringing this illusionist, right? I don't know if that would be allowed again, but I don't know also that simply being an illusionist would qualify for kufr, because Prophet ﷺ says the magician commits kufr, and also in the penal code is very severe. The punishment of a magician is to kill them. Yeah, so.
So, Sheikh, we had discussed once, I think I was in the 9th or 10th grade, that Saudi Arabia had captured a magician.
They do that all the time.
No, but they made like a deal with him where they didn't kill him or execute him as punishment, and instead they worked with him to capture other magicians. Is that okay? Like making those sort of deals?
I don't know the details there, but I did see a few reports on things like that, and the person basically what he did was they did a documentary about all the things that he has to do in order for him to do his magic, and then also to uncover where he put the magic as well, because that's part of, in order for you to kind of relieve the person who's been affected by it, you have to find it. So they kept him until they were able to uncover a lot of those things, and it was in random places in the desert and in different places, and he knew where those things were, so they had record of them. But as far as making a deal, I don't know the details of that, of making a deal or not, but it's something that's very sick, and it's very widespread, unfortunately, in many communities, and typically in Saudi it's foreigners who engage in it. That's very known. And there are specific countries, typically countries that are on the coast, have a disproportionately high number of magicians and magic, and also the islands. The islands are known for that. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. And
Can you just hear about all of that culture, like that voodoo culture?
Voodoo culture is in the West Indies, but also the voodoo culture was also a counterculture to the colonizers. So there is a lot of things mixed in there, because the colonizers came and shoved Christianity down people's throats, and it was part of the resistance. So voodoo becomes a national thing, especially in Haitian culture. And again, what white people consider magic may actually be Islam, because to them their enemy were Muslims. That's key, by the way. So just because somebody says that's magic doesn't necessarily mean it is magic. So you have to identify what is it. So we say if a person is dealing with the spirits, and if a person is going against the commands of Allah, then that would be the type of magic that is prohibited.
Chef, when you were saying about voodoo culture, actually in like South Africa, the black culture is actually to go to a lady called like the Sangoma, who just specializes in witchcraft. If you have an enemy, you go to her. If you have a problem in your marriage, you go to her. And like if you're walking on the beach or like in the more ghetto areas, you'll actually see them, and they have like bones on their body and like these big elaborate like headdresses and stuff. And like they're very open about the fact that they do magic, and it's a huge part of their culture.
Yep.
Sister Yafa actually, when we went for Umrah, she found a hair knot at Jannatul Baqi in the wall. There was a hair knot.
Yeah.
So they went to like an embassy that was there, and they basically alerted them to the fact that somebody had like tied a knot with hair and stuck it in the wall.
Yeah. Oh. Which brings us to the next word, which is al-uqad. Al-uqad are knots.
Transition.
Uqad are knots, which is the plural of uqda. Uqda is the singular, and it comes from aqada. And aqada means to tie knots. That's one of its meanings. It doesn't always mean that. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do عقد التسبيح على يديه. He used to count tasbih with his hands in a special way. And that's called aqd as well. Now, does that mean it's because of turning the fingers in? Is that the meaning? Because they kind of turn into a knot? Or is it something else? I'm not sure. There is research that's done on that, the proper way of, because they used to actually do numbers with their fingers, like big numbers. So like 35, and they would do it with their finger, like by one finger up or one finger down, depending on the image. And one of the scholars in Mecca did that, and his Canadian student recorded the different. It looks like gang signs, and he recorded it, and it basically represents the different numbers. It's a whole research that they. So again, this is a type of teaching tool that they have. But when you read the hadith and it says عقد سبعا وسبعين, he did 77 with his hands. How did he do it? I don't know, if you haven't learned it. But the scholars of hadith know that. That's why we say hadith is for experts, right? You don't just look at hadith, especially not in translation. Yes, you know there's the number 77, but how did he do it? How did he do 77 with his hand? I don't know, because I didn't study that.
So you can still study that though?
Hmm?
You can still, there's no opportunity to like study that, like with a specific emphasis on whatever it is you're studying? Like you
I mean,
how they did it?
yes, of course.
So you can
It's no longer used though.
Right,
It's no longer used.
Can't bring it back.
So, well, do you have to bring it back? That's a question. But you definitely have to teach it to those who are exposed to hadith literature, especially those ahadith that speak about the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make more sense to them.
Right.
Yes?
I was just going to say people just use the counter.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about tasbih here. Tasbih is one aspect, but he would mention a number, like let's say this is going to happen in like 70 years, and then he would say he would do a motion with his hands.
Oh wow.
That's what I'm talking about. So this word is aqada, and this is the word that we get the word aqidah from the same root, because it comes from that which you commit your heart to and you tie your heart to, or you tie to your heart, these solid beliefs.
Aqada means to tie.
Aqada is to tie, yes, aqada is to tie. Aqada, it means to bring about the sides of things. You know, that's how you tie it, right? You bring the sides together. It says you use it for solid things like a rope, so you tie a rope. And also it is used, that same thing is used for, so these are material things. Solid things are material things. There are immaterial things, or what's the word for, like contract. It's not physical. But in Arabic it's called the aqdu bay'. Tangible, non-tangible. So tangible things is like a rope, right? I'm tying a rope. But if I'm having a verbal contract with you, that's also called the aqdu bay'. Marriage contract. It's called the aqdu nikah. Doesn't have to be written. Does not have to be written. Contract is what you say. It's a verbal thing. It's an offer and an acceptance. That's the aqd. Now, why do people write it? They write it because maybe there's also conditions. Like there's terms and conditions. Read the fine print. But the actual requirement is very simple. I offer you, I accept, we agree to a particular marriage gift, and there is witnesses, and there is a representative of the woman. That's the marriage in Islam. It's not complicated. That's the aqd at least. Maryam, you have something.
The word aqidah comes from the same root?
Yes, that's what I said. Aqidah comes from aqada. It's the beliefs that you tie and you hold onto strongly. Okay. in Arabic, in modern standard Arabic now, when someone has a type of disorder or a complex, the complex is called uqda. So they say, like someone who's got a lot of psychological issues, they say he's got uqad nafsiyya. Literally, it means he's got a lot of knots, psychological knots. But what it means is complexes. He's got a lot of complexes. So you have like superiority complex, inferiority complex. Those are called uqad. Okay. Hasid. Hasid is fa'il, ala wazn fa'il. And it comes from hasada, which is the next word, hasada yahsudu. And we mentioned this word before in the story of Yusuf, how his brothers had hasad of him. And we said, al-hasad huwa tamanni zawali al-ni'mati 'an al-ghayr. It is to desire that other people don't have the blessings that they have. And it's twofold. One is simply to desire that, and the other is to actively work towards that. حاسد حسد يحسد خلق يخلق.
Sheikh, you had told us that hasad denotes something negative, but what was the word you used for
غبطة. غبطة is the positive hasad. Ghibta is to desire that one would have the good things. Again, it's not anything that people have. Let's say somebody has a lot of money, you're like, I have ghibta of them. That's not good. But someone who has a lot of money and they spend it in the path of Allah, you should have ghibta of that.
Is that all at the end?
Ghibta, yes. Ghibta. Ghibta. And the Prophet ﷺ says, لا حسد إلا في اثنتين. The only two lawful hasad are in two things, which are the two best good deeds. A man that God has given a lot of wealth and he spends it day and night in the path of Allah, and a man that has been given a lot of knowledge and he applies it and teaches it day and night. So those are the two things that we should desire to have. خلق is to create, to make, to fashion. The name of Allah is Al-Khaliq. The ones that He makes are called Al-Khalq or Al-Makhluqat. And that's why right next to Khalaqa yakhluqu, so this is a verb, you have Awjada yujidu, which is to bring about, to bring into existence. Awjada yujidu, to bring into existence. Okay, then you have أظلم يظلم. أظلم is similar to, or it's going to appear where غاسق appears. Because غاسق is ظلمة الليل, they said, the darkness of the night. So أظلم is darkness. ظلام. أظلم يظلم. This is different than ظلم يظلم. Adlama is to become dark. Zalama is to oppress and to wrong someone else. Okay? So one is this word that we have, Adlama. And the other word is Zalama. The root is the same. But they're two different words, two different meanings. This one means to make dark. This one is to wrong someone.
What's the root?
Zalama.
So the root is one of the words.
To wrong someone.
Yeah.
The root is wrong.
Yes. Dhulm also is to put things in their improper places. Okay, al-falaq, we already covered al-falaq. Quickly, how many words did we say?
To break the law. We said a prison in hellfire. We said a flat piece of land between two hills. The word taught to Moses when he split the sea. A canyon of pit in hellfire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far.
Cracking of the seats, anything that cracks open. Nafatha yanfuthu, we already had that with nafathat. So this is the verb. Zawalun is the time of the day, in the middle of the day. It's called waqtu zawal, when the sun is in the middle of the sky, and if you were to place an object, it would not have any shade. When the shade becomes absent, that's called waqtu zawal. Zawalu dhilli shams, the absence. It's called the time of absence. Or the zawal is the time of being erased, because the shade or the shadow is erased at that time. An-nafikhat. So an-nafikhat is kind of like a synonym to an-nafithat or an-naffathat. Comes from nafakha. Nafakha is to blow. Nafakha is to blow. An-nafikhat are females who are blowing. As-sahirat. As-sahirat is the plural of sahira. The male would be sahir, and the verb is sahara. And sahar is the time of the day. It's the very end of the night before Fajr time. That's called sahar. Waqtu sahari. So what's the relationship between sahar and sihr? For Daysis, you guys combine both, because the time of suhoor is called sihri, and it makes it some like magical.
You gave it so much of the you just say
Siri? Okay. Sounds like Siri. Is that her name? Siri?
But there's a name, right? Is that Sahar?
The time is sahar. The food is suhoor. We mentioned that yesterday.
And it shares the same root with seven.
Yes, the same letters. As-sahirat are female sorcerers, magicians.
So, there was more than one female magician involved in this?
Involved in what?
In tying the knots to the prophets.
No, this is just in general. This is like an occupation, like saying carpenters. It's a union of magicians.
So, in the story that's kind of the background for this surah being revealed,
It wasn't a female.
It wasn't a female?
No.
It was a male?
Yeah.
And was he paid to do it, or did he do it with his own?
If I recall, I need to look into it, but I can't even remember if it was a male actually, so let's hold back on that. But what I do know is he took hairs from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
And he wasn't paid? He just...
I don't recall right now. Sahar is the side of your esophagus, also your lungs. Okay, that's sahar. So it says sihr is used for, the word that we were using earlier, is used for multiple things. Number one, the illusions that you spoke about before. And that's basically kind of like just having quick hands. Also, sihr is what certain people may do through words by slandering. Slander is a form of sihr. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Inna min al-bayani la sihra." Some speech is so eloquent that it causes the effects of magic on people. It intoxicates people.
But if you have that ability, you're not wrong for using it, right?
It depends how you're using it. It's like having beauty. Are you wrong for using your beauty? It's like God made me beautiful, so I'm on Sports Illustrated. Right? Yeah, you're supposed to cover if you're beautiful. not to expose yourself. So if someone has been given the gift of gab and they're very eloquent in speech, they're only supposed to use their speech in things that are pleasing to Allah, never to distort the truth, because they know they have the ability to convince people even if they're lying. So it becomes a greater responsibility. The other type of magic is when someone seeks the assistance of the devil through some type of drawing near to him by some type of offering.
Like selling your soul. That's what people always say. When they say people selling their soul to the devil.
I guess so. And sihr in the Quran is mentioned in the story of Musa alayhi salam, and also in the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And sihr, magic, is one of the arts that the Israelites developed, especially in their time in Egypt. And what's interesting is the spiritual mystical tradition of Judaism, which is called Kabbalah, is heavily involved with this type of stuff. Many famous people are involved in Kabbalah. Kabbalah is like a counterculture as well. But that's where it comes from. It comes from the mystical tradition of Judaism. And of course, that's not from God, that's the man-made systems. So we'll continue, inshallah, on Thursday. عقد يعقد and ربط يربط is to tie. Okay? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Just because someone has been given a gift, it means they need to attain that gift, especially if they're aware that they have that gift. It's not something to misuse. So before I address something, you got to teach me about it.
Okay.
Because
So like I wouldn't say that it's like as prominent in females as it is in males, but that's obviously still a problem.
well, what I have heard is that there are probably more females in the gym than there are males. So that's definitely something that is happening. Now, are they eating that way? No, because females usually try to watch their weight.
So they'll eat excess amounts of things that
Protein.
Yeah.
Protein.
But it's still like food which is in excess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I remember I had an ethical issue with brothers when they started doing that. Some of the people that were in Medina, and they started just drinking protein shakes and stuff like that. And I told them that's not natural, But that's what they wanted. They wanted to build muscle mass quickly. So that's the key. Is most people want to do things in shortcut form. Mm-hmm. Just wait, do it naturally.
So
live a healthy life and eat good. Fast, refrain from food, but they want quick results.
So is it bad? Is the concept of dedicating like an hour to every single day to working out vanity or against the spirit of Islam?
It all depends on why the person is doing it.
So let's say you have like a desk job, right? So you're just sitting down all day, so you want to do it so you're like somewhat active. Or if you have...
I think in that situation, that's probably very important if the desk job is lawful.
Yeah.
It's very important for you to probably strengthen your core muscles, because if you sit for long periods of time, you're going to jam up your back in the long term. So strengthening your core muscle specifically, again, right? It's so they may work for an hour, but it's their core muscle. But they're not trying to work on making, what did you say, sand?
Hourglass.
Huh?
An hourglass.
Yeah, they're not working towards that, or the guy's working on their biceps. Bicep has nothing to do with your desk job. That's not a core muscle.
So with that,
Is it? Is the bicep the core muscle?
No, it's not.
So you can have like biceps as big as a, I don't know what, but your back is still jammed up.
Yeah.
Your core is weak. So strengthening the core, I think, is important for everyone.
But what if people say, like, oh, I'm like, making my biceps bigger or whatever muscle is.
We ask why.
What if their reason is, oh, because I want to make my spouse happier? I don't know how many people are like, oh, this is a requirement for me to get getting married. But I actually have.
That would not necessarily be bad. I mean, if that's something that would please their spouse. But this is key now. How are you dressed in public? Because I know some scholars. There's a famous guy. If I mention him to you guys, they said he's addicted in the gym. But of course, his gym is like all men. There's no women, and they all got beards. So ain't no silly stuff happening. The guy is constantly working, but he wears a baggy thobe. You can't tell. You may think he's fat, but he's like all rock solid muscle, right? So if someone is truly doing it for their spouse, they're not gonna show that to anyone else but their spouse. That's key. But most people who do things, they want to dress that way in public. Right? They want to impress the public. That's a big problem. It goes back to ego and narcissism and all those other
I just feel
diseases.
like the lines between like the right reasons and then the wrong reasons just get mushed up.
Yeah, so I would say if someone truly is doing it to enhance their relationship with their spouse, which is completely legitimate and it's encouraged, and they are likewise fearing Allah when they're not with their spouse, so they're not flirtatious, they're not trying to impress other women, they're not shopping for other people as they're with their spouse, then that would not be an issue. But there's so many things involved. But most people, what they ask is, can I dedicate this? So let's break down your day. What else are you doing an hour of in your day? Where is your day going? Because we are made out of our days and the time that we're alive. So I don't like, just simple answers. I want to make sure I hear the same. A brother recently, he has issue with same-sex attraction. He told me, he's like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't be going to school. I would be in the gym all day trying to check out guys. Right? And he's holding himself back. He's refraining from that. So if the person doesn't have same-sex attraction, they're checking out the girls. That's all they're doing there. And the girls are trying to, showcase themselves to the guys. But we said in Islam, the person's attire is important, how they represent themselves in front of others. Even when we're all by ourselves, we still have modesty. We don't walk around naked. But in the gym, that's the whole culture, is you're stuck on a mirror trying to see how much your muscle came up. It's like, didn't grow. Last time you checked was 30 minutes ago, right? Take it easy on yourself. But that's the culture. The culture is all about worshiping the body. And that's very problematic. That's very problematic. The Prophet ﷺ, we're told how he looked. He looked like he was in great shape. He didn't go to no gym. I remember one of my teachers, he was in great shape. This is the first time I actually learned this about the masjid. We were in class, this is in LA, and all of a sudden we all got up and we started working out in the masjid. I don't know what you call them, but you go down and do a push-up and then jump back up and burpee. I don't like that word because it sounds like a burp. But we did 20 of those, and then we went back to class. And he was known. He was at that time he was 60. He's probably closer to 70 now. And all the brothers said, he'll race you down the block and he'll win in no time. He's an athlete, but you can't tell because he's wearing baggy clothes. The thobe is baggy, the pants are baggy. He only shows his body to his spouse. Again, righteous people, they don't, I mentioned to you guys, even wearing short sleeves is unheard of in traditional societies. For men, you're like, it's not part of their awrah, why can't they wear shorts? Because there's something called modesty, which is completely missing from the discourse. No, you have to be out there, show yourself, be empowered. It's the complete opposite of what Islam teaches, you know?
And yeah, I feel like that, the whole like gym culture and like showing off, when people ask about like hijab for men and like modesty for men, I feel like that's one of the main things that people are like struggling with, but like it's like, it doesn't look the same as for women.
Yeah. May Allah protect us. But then the more reinterpretation of hijab that takes place, you know, where people are completely comfortable calling this thing on their head a hijab and being in the gym. I mean, that's the opposite of hijab. That's why sisters, they typically will go to all women's gyms, or they'll like rent it out for their own, or they'll do it in their own home. But like, because even in front of other women, you're not supposed to show your body, but what is workout clothes other than yoga pants? What do yoga pants look like? I asked the students on campus, how is this allowed? Because they're not yoga pants anymore. Like there's some that are see-through. Like yoga pants with like, I don't know what it is, but this whole area is mesh. And in the back is mesh. I'm like, how is this not called indecent exposure? They're like, no one talks about that.
People who don't even go to the gym.
So that's the problem, is like, yes, like if someone is actually like in shape, yes, but like you're not even in shape. But I don't want to discriminate based on, again, they're going to say body shape, shaming,
You know,
body
that's
shaming.
part
I don't want to
of
body shame.
The illusion, which is actually really disturbing to me,
Yeah,
because
very disturbing.
people, even if you're like out of shape, you will look good in yoga pants because of the way that they're structured and the materials. They design it so that people who are not even in shape or don't even like watch their weight or what they're eating will still look good on in
It's
them.
like jeans, really. It's like
I don't
the same
think-
thing.
Which is so like, it's just scary because like you even have this false idea of how you look.
Yes.
Or like waist training.
What is it? Objectification, right?
Yeah.
Objectification of the body. And who says what looking good is anyway?
Sports Illustrated.
Thank you very much. So we're making it, people. Congratulations.
Yeah.
2 years ago, sister was on Playboy, now Sports Illustrated. What comes to mind with Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue? What comes to mind?
Laudable issue.
Yeah. So that same what is it called? Issue is going to have others. So like all Muslims are going to purchase it, celebrate their sister in Islam. What else are they going to be looking at? Or are they going to like cover other ladies with markers?
Just keep the cover of the issue.
Yeah, so basically what or the key basically the most popular Japanese was in like magazines.
Is this on Facebook?
I have to go near my mom's lunch, Japanese vacation.
She wore like a turban, but she's considered like a Muslim Japanese. So like basically magazines like all of them kind of under the same. And literally everybody's like, it's geared towards men, which is like, how are you guys all being so stupid? Like this has a very direct purpose.
To me, it's pretty because it's a society. It's exactly everything. How is everything going to
But this is like fetishization.
Where did you find this?
Yeah. No, it's just like
You always get the
Where did you find it?
Albertsons?
This one point.
And it's on my phone now. And I
It's
hope
also a good direction.
gonna go places today, so I'm gonna have to like map quest there or something beforehand and like do memoirs how to get there.
You should go home and get it though.
I don't have time. I literally have absolutely no time. I have to find out.
It's kind of stressful.
And I put myself in this situation. But
Oh,
unfortunately.
did you get Ina, did you get this?
Eli on Friday.
Are you going?
Inshallah.
Who's having that?
Do we have any forms
She
today?
is our friend
Or
from.
next Saturday?
Oh,
Yeah.
Last time we should remind me, said, we're gonna try to have it in
okay.
class.
Who's invited?
Make it school hours.
Mm.
But I'm not sure, I haven't seen the email.
For a week or something.
Nobody's on the board. Who would pay me that name? Ooh, what's the word?
Oh, you were here.
Did you go to the party? Which one? The potluck.
I think it's only maybe normally I don't
That's a good. I'm not worried about it.
know. I don't know like if that's like her wish.
No, but that's like emotions. When you guys are mixing. I don't know. If it asks like to do people.
Yeah, I think that's what is this, Megan?
Chocolate candy. It's a Russian chocolate. Hey, I don't really good with this one. Where's the flashback? Why did you miss it?
It's just, neither of you guys are really soon.
From the last one. Well, what happened to
Yeah, it was after when I was reading, but I had to stop listening.
it?
After reading. I had so many hours this weekend. I went to sleep like early in the morning on Sunday. Not early in the morning, sorry, early in the morning, Monday.
I came last night.
Yeah, you said before they.
11:30. Reached. Oh my god. Okay. Requested the bill.
Today. Good. Yeah, it's so weird. My husband has never had allergies in his life. Never. And he's like sneezing and like tearing up and coughing like
And somebody
crazy.
says allergies, they get subconsciously. I don't know. Happens. I don't know what that is.
It's
I
so
don't think everybody is that really liars. The quality sucks. And the weather is making me angry. What do you think the allergies are? I took Claritin and I took Zyrtec.
So you take one person and one Zyrtec?
No, so it's that, which one I have.
Just talking about.
So right now it's like the Claritin.
See,
You want the dissolvable one? It's like
I was just thinking about,
white pudding.
I don't know if you've seen,
I took a liver. But you know, Saba, the one that came, you guys went to the ocean?
yeah, I think you have like an
I
say.
think he did a silver.
Which one?
Anyone,
Yeah,
anyone
he doesn't
where
know.
it's like where you
Wait,
can
what
see
do you
one
mean?
close.
Okay.
That man has claws, he has eyes and his claws.
Yeah.
He's big, like, and I've heard, because Seijuno's located at Hill now, the location. And he likes that hill, it's a good, it's not a slant too, so,
You didn't know.
like students that bike with him, or sometimes they'll say like, yeah, I get left behind.
Oh, I actually know you did.
And it's pretty
Yeah.
neat, but they also kind of do
It's
it.
kind of inspiring almost.
Like this is the full picture.
Oh, I love
What is that?
those.
Everyone is it.
You guys would just look exactly the same.
So crazy.
Take this call around his mind.
Yeah, they had jujitsu classes.
Who was the next?
It's awesome.
That's so good.
If we can find an instructor, I know it's difficult because work, it's home for everyone. We feel like we really need to have you.
Well, I use that picture.
Honestly, I'm down to come
These
in
nice.
to
Oh, this is
somehow figure it out.
Before the 2 in the morning, if you would be dead by class time.
Or just
This
really
one.
energetic.
When is like exactly?
What did I ever change this
Class.
to
After class.
What about some maths?
That dinosaur though, I went in there and then like I went
Space,
around
that's the thing.
and the kids got so scared. It's great. It's really really great. It belongs to the girls.
Oh, she's
Basically, to the last of the dinosaur, and like, oh, love that.
Or at the very
Was
least,
it
try to set up one of
In
those.
November or something? Nope, we just decided to
Video
do it.
classes.
Remember we finished
Just
yes, we had already
just
finished.
there's
So you're like,
using that, right?
Yeah, I saw, but I didn't know like what
So after
organization
this,
was
you guys will be
speaking
back.
to the measures.
So I've seen like Medжил's part of it before. I don't know if it was sold
It's
or
mostly just
like, cooperation with another group. But if we can try to do like Medjil or something, then it would be awesome.
really, really sweet. And he's just,
Maybe in the summer.
he does it like, and he's just like, he's just so tiny. Oh, look at her. He's so tiny, so tiny. Yeah, he's very photogenic. But he still has his baby out. Yeah.
I've never heard of that baby acne.
Supposedly it's a very common thing nowadays. It has to do with hormones.
Oh, it's common nowadays, so it wasn't a thing before.
Yeah, I think maybe it was less common before. But now probably because of the
So it's an actual acne?
Yeah, it's legit acne. My aunt got her baby on a cellular one.
No way.
They actually, it's a thing. And now it's on his skin a lot. It's kind of visual. He has actual acne. The big pimples. I'm like, yeah, dude. You need to get a facial or something.
That's so sad.
Yeah, maybe it needs to get a facial. It's like cute though. Like this is him on a good
I mean, as
day.
long as it doesn't hurt.
This is a good day. See,
Oh my god. As long as it doesn't hurt.
but then he has like bad days. A lot of pimples. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Even with that, he's kind of cute.
It's really
Like
pretty.
this is when his breakup started.
Oh, I love that.
And then he has a bunch of little red dots all over his face, and then he actually got the proper pimples.
I wonder if acne started becoming more prominent, or was acne always a thing?
It definitely became a problem. I also think there's a lot to do with what we eat now.
I think it has what to do with what with. I think it had a lot to do with what we eat.
A lot, because we put so much of junk into our bodies. Let's say.
But I was just wondering, like, because whenever like me and my friends, like our parents are always like, we never had acne.
No one ever had acne.
My mom's like, that's impossible.
My mom, the other day, she was trying to like connect with me. She's like, Mom, I have acne. Do you understand? I'm like, she's like, I said, look at this picture. And she pulls out a picture of my joke, and there's one pimple. She's like, this is my acne is at its worst. And I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe she's trying to connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely I think the food. Because I feel like when you change your diet, like drink less soda, and water, all those things, mostly it helps.
For me, what helped is stopping drinking milk.
Yeah, I think that
But it doesn't help everybody.
you guys have
Oh, really bad.
because you can't see stuff.
Because I use like retinol. I do a lot of retinol and a lot of exfoliation. So it's a lot of yeah, I used to do this one here. There used to be a student. I would just go close. Have you tried Google? They have a lot, it's just basic. Just Mac experience, and they have one like it.
Oh, it looks like a basic.
Yeah. Like not basic. No. It's like this.
Oh.
Like, you know how Jersey goes a lot?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but I mean, you're paying like $8 or
Oh,
$11.
yeah, it's really close.
So you're paying for
So that's all of it.
Gee. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. Take out your fiqh packets. We're on, for me it says page 19. We did the prayer timings, and then we did recommended times. The next slide says history. Okay, so you guys are gonna have to write this because I think the slides were never added. The next thing we'll cover, so we covered recommended times to pray. You guys see that? Yes? After that are impermissible times to pray. Times where it is impermissible to pray. There are 3 impermissible times to pray. The first is at sunrise. We'll talk about that, but at sunrise is number 1. And what we mean by at sunrise, this is from the time or the moment the sun starts to rise until the sun is above the horizon. Which is a span of about 10 to 15 minutes. This is right. So Fajr ends right before the sunrise, right, and then right after that you have the sunrise, right, immediately after that.
So when the sun starts rising, when the disk of the sun breaks the horizon, until the sun rises above the horizon, which is about 10 to 15 minutes, right? Usually when people are trying to figure out, I want to pray Salatul Duha, that sunnah prayer that is usually prayed in the early morning after the sunrise, we say wait about 15 minutes after the time of Fajr has ended. Right? 15 minutes after the time of Fajr has ended. So that's the first time. It's impermissible to pray, right? Now in the case of someone that has missed Salatul Fajr and they wake up at sunrise, right? Some scholars are of the opinion that this person prays Fajr right away, right? Other scholars are of the opinion that this person waits until this period has passed. So the Hanafis, for example, they're of the opinion that a person doesn't pray during this time. So if, let's say, sunrise is at 6:05, right? And a person wakes up at 6:06, right? They would say that you wait until 6:20 and then you pray your Salatul Fajr, but you don't pray during this time. Clear? The second is at midday. What time is midday, Fatima?
You just spoke about Zawad.
Huh?
Zawad.
Yeah, what time is Zawad?
The sun is at the highest.
Okay.
Did you think I didn't know that?
I don't know. You said
I
we
might
just
not be
spoke about it.
gifted in Arabic, but I.
You said we just spoke about it. When?
Sheikh Ahmed Al-Qurdi, we spoke about it in Surah.
Okay. So at midday, this is when basically the shadow of an object stops decreasing or stops shortening, but also before it starts elongating.
That's the zenith, right?
Yeah, that's when it's at the zenith, which is about 7 to 10 minutes before Salatul Dhuhr. Which is about 7 to 10 minutes before Salatul Dhuhr, like the timing of Salatul Dhuhr enters. Clear? You see it more sometimes.
Huh?
You see it more like 15 minutes sometimes.
What?
The time, like if you see on the TV, in the some might come in 15 minutes before, and it's like Zawal time, don't pray during this time.
Oh, it can extend to 15. It can extend to 15.
Let's say
Yeah. 7 to 10 is safe. 12, 15, maybe 15. The TVs do that. Zawal time, don't pray or something.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's all 15, but they didn't say Zawal time thing.
Okay. And then the third time is at sunset. While the sun is setting, with the exception of the Asr of that day. That if you haven't prayed Asr yet, you will pray Asr. Right? But generally at sunset, when the sun is dimming, right? During that last portion of the day before sunset, right? So they say that that's the time when you can look at the sun and there won't be any harm to your eye. It's not difficult to look at the sun, right? With the exception of the Asr of that day.
The impermissible times. It's not in there.
So yesterday we mentioned with regards to prayers and the ending of their time, that we said the Hanafis, I believe it was, for Fajr, if you catch one rak'ah, you're fine. Then the sunrise starts, the disk reaches and breaks the horizon. If it doesn't, you have to end your prayer or make it.
So I was speaking to Sheikh Farhan about this yesterday after class, and he's saying there's like an old opinion amongst the Hanafis and the new opinion, right? Basically, the way they function now is that like if you start praying and then sunrise happens, you just finish praying, right? And they say that if you catch the rak'ah, you've caught the salah, right? But the old opinion says that even if you catch the rak'ah, you haven't caught the salah.
And if you don't catch the rak'ah even,
Yeah.
Like you're in only Fatiha, and the sun breaks. Like somehow you know that the sun breaks. You like end it.
That generally for the madhahib there, you haven't caught the salah in its time, right?
So you just make it
But
up.
you don't break it. But you don't break it. But you don't break it.
So, this actually happened on Sunday. So, if a person goes into a masjid during that time, then they can't pray.
We'll talk about that. That's a little different.
Oh,
That's a little different.
When does Maghrib come again? Sorry.
After the disk of the sun has completely gone under the horizon at sunset.
Oh, but during the sunset, no can't.
Yeah.
Can't post. You can't pray.
As the sun is setting.
As the sun is setting.
Yeah. Except if it's the asr of that day, like you've already prayed asr.
What's
So you
the,
haven't prayed asr.
what's the color? They always mention like the color of the sky at this time. What's the color during sunset? Like, you know how they say like, oh, there's like a white line when the sun starts to rise and hits the rising and stuff. What's it like at sunset?
Whatever you meant.
You mentioned that.
Okay. After that, dislike times for voluntary prayer. So the first word, that which was permissible.
This is also something that we're adding.
Yes.
Okay. Disliked.
Dislike times for voluntary prayers. So number one would be the 3 times mentioned above. Number one would be the 3 times mentioned above. So according to the Hanafis, if you enter the masjid during these times, Iman, to partially answer your question, if you enter the masjid during these times, right, they would say it's a dislike to prayer, it's impermissible to pray. But this is kind of confusing because they put this under impermissible times to pray, and then under the first thing under dislike they put the 3 previous times. The 3 previous times we said it's impermissible, right? So this is kind of like a weird category.
So it becomes disliked for voluntary, but it's impermissible.
Sorry, just scratch number one. Just scratch number one because it's gonna. Just scratch number one. Don't even put number one. We'll go back to voluntary prayers when you enter the masjid or something like that. Number one, during the khutbah, according to the Hanafis, during the khutbah, it's disliked. We're in dislike now. Dislike times for voluntary prayers.
I give you a personal apology there, Sheikh.
Huh?
I gotta give you a personal apology there. Last week at Cyprus.
Oh, I'm not Hanafi, bro.
Oh,
During the khutbah.
so it's only a happy thing?
The Shafi'is and the Hanbalis are okay with it. The Malikis, I believe, also they don't. But I know the Hanafis for sure. Like, so if the khutbah has started, you come in and you sit down. Right? It's disliked. It's not impermissible. Right? There's obviously a famous hadith of a man who walks in during the khutbah. Prophet ﷺ, he sits down. The Prophet ﷺ tells him, "Have you prayed?" He says, "No." So he says, "Stand up," and he prays. Right? Those that said that you do pray, right, even if the Jummah khutbah has started, they obviously use this hadith, right, very clear. Those that say it's disliked, they rather use this hadith, but they interpret it in a different way, that they say this was a specific situation to this man, and that this man was someone that was in need, and the Prophet ﷺ was trying to highlight him to the other companions, and this was his way of highlighting this particular companion, so that everyone could see. Right?
Has this incident happened before or after?
No.
It is kind of after? I mean, both.
What about companions? What was their the early communities? how did they approach prayer during khutbah? I feel like we should settle the issue right now.
We're not going to settle the issue. Number two. Before Fajr, like before the prayer of Fajr, with the exception of the 2 units of Sunnah that are prayed for Fajr. So once the Fajr timing enters and you pray the Sunnah, praying basically anything between your Sunnah and your Fard.
Is this like
Yes. Number 3 would be after Fajr. And number 4 would be after Asr.
just to make sure? Is that after? Like
You mean after the time or after the prayer?
yeah. That's the question.
After you've prayed Asr prayer. Sorry,
Or
after
Fajr.
you've prayed Asr prayer. Yeah, and after you've prayed Fajr prayer.
In regards to number 3 after Fajr, if you have not prayed the 2 Sunnah Fajr, it's recommended to pray that, right?
After you've prayed the 2 Sunnah Fajr, there's a difference of opinion here. So if you haven't prayed the 2 Sunnah Fajr, so let's say this would happen if you went to the masjid, right? This necessarily wouldn't happen at home, right? But let's say you haven't prayed the 2 Sunnah Fajr, you go to the masjid, the congregation has already started, so you pray Fajr. There's 2 opinions here. Some say that you just pray it later, duha time, so after sunrise by 15 minutes, right? Others say that it's fine to, this is the one exception that you can get up and pray this immediately. The 2 Sunnah Fajr. Clear? So when we think about Asr, right? If a person has prayed Asr, right? After they've prayed Asr, right? It's disliked to pray after that. Clear? But then as the timing of Asr gets later and later, this person has prayed Asr. They go from this disliked timing, right? Because they've prayed Asr, into this impermissible timing, which is right before sunset, right? And the same thing also happens after a person has prayed Salatul Fajr. After a person prays Salatul Fajr, they're in this timing where it's disliked to pray, and then slowly, right when the time of Fajr ends, you'll enter into a impermissible time, right? And the third impermissible time to pray is just by itself. It's the time of Zawal, right? When the sun is at its zenith. Clear? Good. Okay. We're gonna have some fun here. So now we go to the next slide where it says history, right? So first of all, the adhan is considered to be what they call from the sha'air of Islam. What is sha'air? Anyone know?
Signs?
Yeah, like the sacred symbols of Islam, right? Sha'air, sacred symbols of Islam. The singular is sha'iratun. Sheen ayn ya ra ta marbuta. Sha'iratun.
But you can't call the adhan holy.
Huh?
Can you use the word holy?
I wouldn't say it's holy.
Huh?
The adhan is holy, I wouldn't say. It's a sacred symbol of Islam. Linguistically, the word adhan means to inform or to announce. Right? So lughatan, we would say it is ikhbar or i'lan, to inform or to announce. And istilahan, technically, it refers to a call with specific words to inform others that the time of prayer has begun. Okay. So, this narration, it says, actually, let's go back. So first of all, when were the 5 obligatory prayers obligated upon the people? Huh? Isra wal Mi'raj. So later period in Mecca, right? The last few years in Mecca, right? There's a difference of opinion of exactly what year Isra wal Mi'raj took place. Many of the historians are of the opinion that it took place towards the later years. Some said the 11th, right? But there is a slight difference of opinion, or is the difference of opinion about what year exactly did it take place, right? And even the month itself is something that is differed over, right? But it seems to have taken place, Allahu A'lam, towards the latter years of the Prophet ﷺ's time in Mecca, okay? But they were obligated to pray 5 times a day, but there was no specific call to prayer, right? The adhan was instituted the first year after the hijrah. So it's narrated that Abdullah ibn Umar said, when the Muslims arrived in Medina, they used to gather for prayer and they used to guess the time for it. During those days, the practice of adhan for prayers hadn't been introduced. Once they discussed this problem regarding the call for prayer, some people suggested the use of a bell like the Christians, and others proposed a trumpet like the horn used by the Jews. Umar was the first to propose that a man should call to prayer. So Allah's Messenger ﷺ told Bilal to say, Salah, Salah for prayers. Later that night, that same night, Abdullah ibn Zayd ibn Rabi' saw a dream in which a person came to him carrying a bell. He narrates, I said to him, O slave of Allah, will you sell me that bell? He said, what will you do with it? I replied, we shall use it to call people to prayer. He said, shall I not guide you to something that is better than that? I said, certainly. He said, you should say, and then he taught him the adhan, right? Now, the next day when the morning came, I went to the Prophet ﷺ to tell him what I had seen. He said, your dream is true, Allah willing. Go to Bilal and tell him what you have seen and tell him to make the call for salah, for he has the best voice amongst you. I went to Bilal and I told him to do, and he made the call to prayer. Umar was in the house when he heard it. He came out with his cloak and said, by the one who has raised you with the truth or sent you with the truth, I saw similar to what he saw. The Prophet ﷺ said, praise and thanks are due to Allah. Okay? This is how the adhan was introduced or instituted. The ruling of the adhan and the iqamah, both the adhan and iqamah are considered to be emphasized sunnah. Sunnah mu'akkadah for the 5 daily prayers and Jumu'ah, and not for any other prayer. Meaning not any other, like not for Eid prayer, not for Salatul Janazah, right? But it is considered an emphasized sunnah for the 5 daily prayers and Jumu'ah. Some other scholars, right, they consider it a fard kifaya. Other scholars have said that it is a fard kifaya, it is a communal obligation. So that if there's a congregation that takes place and one person does it, سَقَطَ الْإِثْمُ عَنِ الْبَاقِينَ, that the sin is removed from the rest. But if no one does it, then everyone is liable, right? So scholars are of the two opinions that it is either sunnah mu'akkadah or it is fardu kifayatin. It is a communal obligation. Clear? As for the one praying individually, once again, you have scholars that say it is either an emphasized sunnah, even for the one praying individually, it is either an emphasized sunnah, or a smaller minority say that it is mandatory upon the one that is praying by themselves. The majority opinion seems to be that it is an emphasized sunnah, right? Even when a person is praying by themselves, that they do adhan and iqamah. Yes?
Mom had a question.
Yeah, no. I'm waiting on that.
Oh,
No, wait. Let's split. Clear? Right? So, when it comes to congregation, we said it's an emphasized sunnah, right? Others said it is a communal obligation, right? For a person praying individually, munfaridan, then the opinion is that it is either an emphasized sunnah, both, right? Or that it is a individual obligation, right? Some scholars were actually of the opinion that if a person prays individually and does not say adhan and iqamah, they are sinful, right? But like I said, this is a minority opinion and it seems a little far-fetched, and Allah knows best. Okay? As for the adhan of a woman, the adhan and iqamah of a woman, then the adhan and iqamah upon a woman are obviously not obligatory, because we even said there's a difference of opinion whether it is obligatory upon a man or not, right? It is not obligatory upon a woman.
What about
1 second, Fatima, just pity.
Should have a sign,
Yeah. You get like a ticket number.
a neon sign.
Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, he was asked about women, about women performing adhan and iqamah, right? And this is whether it's individually or in a group of women. This is whether it is individually or in a group of women, either or. He said, "In fa'alna fala ba's." If they do it, then there's no problem with it. وَإِن لَمْ يَفْعَلْنَ فَجَائِزٌ. And if they don't do it, then that's also permissible.
Who said that?
Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Al-Shafi'i, he said, if they perform adhan and iqamah, فَلَا بَأْس. No problem, no worries. Some scholars, they said that it is perhaps better if she makes adhan and iqamah without raising her voice. Now they talking about raising her voice, they're talking about like in the presence of foreign or unrelated men, right? It has been narrated by some people that Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to make adhan and she used to make iqamah, and it was narrated about Ibn Umar, the son of Abdullah ibn Umar, that he was asked, هل على النساء أذان, that is there adhan for women? So he became upset and he said, أنا أنهى عن ذكر الله, shall I prevent someone from remembering Allah? Meaning that he was saying that there's no issue with it, right? So you find many of the scholars, it seems that they have said they have not prevented a woman from making adhan and iqamah. Okay? Obviously we're not talking about adhan and iqamah for women in front of men. We're talking about if she's by herself or she's with a group of people. There are scholars that said that the woman has no adhan and iqamah without that, but it seems like, I was going through some of the narrations yesterday and today, seems like a lot allowed it. Right? A lot allowed it whether she's by herself or with a group of women.
In the presence of other men, it's no.
In the presence of
other men or
Other-
other men.
other
That woman should not be in
unrelated,
sure, yeah, non-mahrams.
non-mahram, unrelated. The majority opinion, it seems to, they said that it is either haram, and it seems like the Hanafis, they said that it is extremely disliked. Right? So they go between tahrim and karaha. Yes.
Okay. We mentioned that adhan and iqamah was sunnah muqtada. Like for clarification, what is a sunnah? Would that fall under like the approvals of the Prophet ﷺ? Because I'm not aware.
The sunnah mu'akkada, the emphasized sunnahs.
Yeah, but
Isn't sunnah a practice that the Prophet ﷺ consistently did throughout his life? I don't know.
No.
Did the Prophet ﷺ give adhan as well, or is this like a sunnah bid'ah?
So it's I get what you're saying. It's considered a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's not like something he did, but it's something that he instituted.
So that would that fall under the approvals of the Prophet ﷺ? Like I approve of that. And
Well, it's more of his statements because he commanded for the adhan to be made.
Oh, okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? I get what you're saying, but it's more of something he commanded for it to be done. So it's more of
the fact that the Prophet ﷺ can institute something and whoever does it it occurs consistently, it falls under the category of sunnah.
Right. Because not everyone, Prophet ﷺ is the imam, right?
Yeah.
So he's not going to be like, hey, I'm going to make it that, everyone else make it that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like one person's supposed to make it that.
Are there more examples of times, I'm sorry, of times where the Prophet ﷺ instituted something that he himself did not do that became a sunnah?
There are.
It's an interesting question.
You could say writing down knowledge is a sunnah.
Mm.
Right? Prophet ﷺ never wrote it down himself. Be one.
Pretty good one.
What'd you say?
I said reading the Quran. Did he
Wait,
He read the Quran. No, he's asking a very specific question. Are there things that we perhaps say that are sunnah, Prophet ﷺ said to do, but he himself never did?
Yeah, I'm asking about sunnah as in sunnah, the legal category, or sunnah as in just also as in approved of?
No, sunnah, the legal category.
So just, what's it called? The same line. Whether the Iqamah or emphasis sunnahs. So like let's say for example you can go like just pray Maghrib by yourself or whatever. And typically I feel like this is what I would do. I'd say I feel like pretty much the majority does this. They'll just call the Iqamah and then pray. Even if it's just by themselves. So it would be better to also include an adhan and then the Iqamah.
No. No.
And then skipping both kind of just on the nose.
You're not sinful. You're not like, no one's
Okay.
sinful at all here, right? It's just better, yeah, to do the adhan and iqamah. But yeah, I mean, there are numerous times where I've just said Allahu Akbar and prayed and not done either, or like countless.
Okay.
Wait, so if you're with friends and you just do the Iqamah without that, is that a sunnah mu'akkada at that point, or?
Yeah, but it's better. It's better. There's nothing wrong with what was done,
Okay.
but it is better to call the adhan.
Okay.
And then I know there's a hadith that if you call the adhan, even if you're like by yourself out in nowhere, all the objects will be witnesses for that adhan.
Testify for that adhan.
Now, does that include the Iqamah or is that specific to adhan? Like, is there like a very, very like
There's
literal
not a
meaning?
narration about the iqamah, but we can understand that perhaps it also applies to the iqamah.
But just go with the safe route to the adhan.
Sure.
I mean, if you're alone, nobody's gonna be like, well, what was a bad adhan, bro? Like,
Look, if you just pray without adhan iqamah, it's fine. If you call iqamah, then you've practiced or put into practice a sunnah, right? And if you call adhan, then perhaps even more, like, or even more. Yes.
I was going to ask you something after that.
please go ahead.
Yes. So, is it like a Islamic tradition that the person who calls the adhan should be the imam?
Yes, like it's usually the mu'adhin and the imam are different people.
And what about the iqamah? So iqamah is the third person?
Usually, the mu'adhin is the one who calls the iqamah as well. Usually the same person.
And I forgot what you explained last time, but is it okay to have a jama'ah with 2 people, or does it have to be 3 people?
It is okay to what?
Jama'ah with 2 people?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine, right? Even if it's women.
Even if it's?
Women.
Yeah.
You never Jum'ah khutbah with just 2 people, right?
According to there's a difference of opinion. The Shafi'is and the Hanbalis believe we say 40 people is the minimum amount needed to establish Salat al-Jum'ah. Others are smaller.
College campuses, not a requirement.
Shafi for sure.
Okay,
40 people for Jum'ah.
Jayyid. Let's do this.
Other opinions, let's say, less. Wait, shit, so, sorry. I know Jum'ah is probably going to come up later in the packet, but what's the minimum or most lenient position on?
We'll get to that.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I'll wait.
How to give the adhan? How to give the adhan? Can you guys put away your phones, please? How to give the adhan? Number 1, face the qibla. now realizing we'll get to Sunnah acts, right? But the mu'adhin being in a state of wudu is not a condition. It is better, it's Sunnah, right? But it would be a completely valid adhan if the person was not in a state of wudu. Okay? Now it is recommended to either put your index fingers in your ears or to place your hands over your ears. And then to say Allahu Akbar 4 times, to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah twice, to say Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah twice. Sorry, I'm just kind of find the slide, don't worry, I know the adhan, I promise guys. To say Hayya ala salah twice, to say Hayya ala al-falah twice, to say Allahu Akbar twice, and to say La ilaha illallah once. This adhan consists of those 15 phrases. In the adhan of Fajr, prayer is better than sleep, comes after, come to success. Clear? So the total adhan, so now I need you to focus with me. I need you to focus. Everyone focused? Yes. The total adhan is how many phrases? 15. In Fajr, it's how many? 17. Good. Okay. So the adhan of and you can write this in now, the adhan of the Hanafis and the Hanbalis is the same. 15 phrases. Clear? Hanafis and Hanbalis is the same. It's 15 phrases. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Till the end. Clear? We good? The Malikis, it's 17 phrases. The Malikis, it's 17 phrases. The non-Fajr adhan. We're not including the Fajr adhan right now. Okay? The Malikis, it's 17 phrases. Isma'il. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah. This is the Maliki adhan. What was different?
The testimony was repeated.
No, before that. Allahu Akbar was only said twice instead of 4 times. And then
Testimony was repeated twice.
the testimony was repeated twice. But what was the difference? Ya Jama'ah.
Twice each.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
I see.
Ashhadu an la ilaha
The first time around was
illallah.
quiet.
Yes.
And emphasized the second time.
Yes. So the first 4, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, is said in a lower voice. Okay? And then you go back. This concept is called tarji'. Tarji' literally means going back. Tara, jim, ya, ayn. Tarji'.
We need right adhan. It's just it's not so
We are going to be making different adhans in Serbia.
someone's gonna like freak out.
If you have it, you see I and Oz gonna be like, actually.
I'll make the adhan in Cyprus one of these days.
So, I have a question.
Okay, so just so we're clear, let's count the Maliki phrases. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. 10. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. 17. Clear? We good? What's left? The Shafi'is. The Shafi'is. So perhaps the later Shafi'is, they went with the Hanafis and the Hanbalis, but at least it seems like Imam al-Shafi'i's opinion was Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, till the end. So how many phrases do they have? 19. Clear? And then everyone says in Fajr you add, after Hayya al-Falah you add As-salatu khayrun min al-nawm. Now,
Why is there so much difference of opinion on Adhan? Was probably called a million times in the time of Prophet.
because there's multiple narrations.
Yeah, it should be mutawatir.
There's multiple narrations, sahih narrations of companions being told to make the adhan in a particular way.
So that means that also
And the argument can perhaps be made, that the Maliki opinion is perhaps closer to the truth.
So you're saying that at the time of the Prophet there was only one adhan, but the narrations that we got too might not all be strong. Or are you saying that
They're saying there could have been multiple ways the adhan. There are multiple ways the adhan was. No, sorry. There are multiple narrations of the adhan being called in these ways.
So Rasul actually told people to make them differently.
So this narration of that has the tarji', right, is called the narration of the companion Abi Mahdura. The narration of Abi Mahdura is found in the Sahihain, in Bukhari and Muslim. So it's not even like this whole thing of going back is something strange. It's an authentic transmission.
But it could not only necessarily be that he taught it to them that way, but rather he heard it that way and let it happen.
Yeah,
No, he taught it to them that way.
He taught it that way. Oh, wow.
This is the way Abi Mahdura would do his adhan, right? And so, why I said this about the Maliki opinion is that, look, a huge thing for Imam Malik. Imam Malik was based in what city? Medina. The adhan is made 5 times a day, right? 5 times a day, non-stop for every prayer, right? Imam Malik institutes tarji'. He couldn't have come out with tarji' and he's not hearing it from the message of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? Do you get what I'm saying? Like the adhan is being made from the companions to the tabi'een to the time of Malik ibn Anas, Imam Malik. He's not going to say, hey, I'm going to introduce this concept of tarji'. Like, I'm just going to tell you the adhan is exactly what I'm hearing because I can't even make anything up because people are going to call me out for lying. Or like, hey, that's not the adhan. Are you saying the adhan being mentioned is not according to the sunnah? Right? Do you get what I'm saying?
That argument you make for the entire Maliki.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. We know.
Are you Maliki?
No, I'm not.
Method and Hafid is
Clear? Do we get that? All right.
Yeah, my question is.
I was, because I to be honest, I forgot, I guess, that this was also the Shafi'i opinion, right? So I messaged one of my Shafi'i friends like just a few hours ago. I was like, bro, like, is this like really the madhab? No, it wasn't Shaykh Jamil. It was a good friend of ours, Shaykh Umar. It was Shaykh Umar in Chicago. And I was like, hey, is this like the madhab? And he's like, yeah, it's mustahab indana. Like it's recommended to do this tarji', to go back to do the shahadatain. He's like, I'm reading from Imam An-Nawawi right now. He says that the hadith of Abi Mahdura is clear and it's a proof and it's an evidence. So I'm like, bro, like, okay, the Malikis, they do their adhan in Maghrib and wherever. I'm like, but we got Hanafis here, but how come we never hear the Shafi'i adhan? He's like, wallahi, I don't know, bro. I was like, I'm about to revive.
Wait, in Medina right now, that's the adhan that's given.
The adhan that's given right now is the Hanbali Hanafi style.
Even though, because the Saudi is majority
Hanbali, yeah. They generally adopt the Hanbali method. Okay.
So really suspicious.
Really quickly, let's also
let's also, because we're on this, talk about the iqamah. Okay? The iqamah, according to the Hanafis, is 17 phrases. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya al-falah, hayya al-falah. Qad qamat as-salah, qad qamat as-salah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Right? So their adhan was 15, their iqamah became 17 because they added qad qamat as-salah twice. Clear? No, one, twice each. Twice each. Just like the adhan plus qad qamat as-salah twice. Okay?
Wait, one time, what are we talking about?
Iqamah. I've jumped. I went to iqamah purposely. Yeah, but just okay. So iqamah 17 phrases عند الأحناف. As for the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is, they have the same iqamah, 11 phrases. The Shafi'is and the Hanbalis, 11 phrases for the iqamah. Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, qad qamat as-salah, qad qamat as-salah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Everything is said once except for the Allahu Akbar at the beginning and the end, and qad qamat as-salah, right? So Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, hayya ala salah, hayya al-falah, qad qamat as-salah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
This is for Maliki?
No, this is for the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is.
Will you disagree with the Hanafis?
No. We have a shorter iqamah. So in the adhan, the Hanbalis agreed with the Hanafis, or the Hanafis agreed with the Hanbalis, okay? But in the iqamah, it was the Shafi'is and the Hanbalis together. Clear? Okay. So what's left in the iqamah now? Who's left? The Malikis. The Malikis have 10 phrases in the iqamah. Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, hayya ala salati, hayya ala al-falah, qad qamat as-salah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
So everything one except for the
Huh?
Everything is said once except for the Allahu person at the end.
Yes. So the main difference between them and the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is is that the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is, they said qad qamat as-salah twice. Right.
But then of course Malikis can't be wrong because they
That's right. The Hanafi iqamah is exactly the same as the adhan, just faster.
Just faster? Yeah, plus the two qad qamat as-salah. Okay? You good?
Wait, could you repeat the Shafi'i adhan? I was writing down.
The Shafi'i adhan is the same as the Maliki adhan, with the exception that the Malikis, they only say Allahu Akbar twice at the beginning. The Shafi'is say Allahu Akbar 4 times in the beginning. So the Shafi'is have 19 phrases in their adhan, the Malikis have 17, and the Hanafis and the Hanbalis have 15. In the Iqamah, the Hanafis have 17, the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is have 11, and the Malikis have 10.
Could you explain the? I guess we're gonna get to it when we do Jum'ah khutbah, but
we're gonna get to it, man.
What?
We're gonna get to Jum'ah. Let's not.
Okay. Because it trips me out when they do the adhan in the middle of the khutbah instead of like pausing for doing istighfar. Like between the two khutbahs, they give another adhan.
Yeah, who does that?
Throws me off so hard.
That's not. So what preceded that adhan is not the khutbah. Okay, listen. What he's talking about is that sometimes even here, Sheikh Farhan does his khutbah like this over here. Sometimes. Is that
So this goes back to, does the khutbah have to be in Arabic? Okay? Does the khutbah have to be in Arabic? Right? Certain people are of the opinion that the khutbah has to be in Arabic. Like both Jum'ah khutbahs, right? Al-khutbatain have to be in Arabic, right? So even if they don't believe it with certainty, sometimes they do this. So sometimes Shaykh Farhan, I don't think he does it all the time, sometimes when he gives his khutbah, okay, right? What you'll hear is there's an adhan made at the beginning of Dhuhr time, okay? And then at some point, without any second adhan, the Imam will get up and he'll start speaking English, okay? You perhaps came late all those times, so you didn't realize that there was no adhan made before he got up and started speaking. But he starts speaking English. This is not the khutbah. This is not the khutbah, okay? This is what they call a bayan. It's just like an English lecture, right? Then he kind of sits down, which is not the sitting down between the two khutbahs. He just sits down because he got to sit down somewhere, right? And then they make the second adhan, and then he gets up and he does the first khutbah in Arabic, which is very, very short. Then he sits down at that time of the istighfar. Then he gets back up and he makes another short khutbah, and then they call iqamah and they pray.
Oh my God.
Do you get it?
A little bit. I get it, but like.
Do you guys get it?
I don't mind.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right?
What are we supposed to say when the sheikh sits down?
Yeah, Jama'at al-Khair, like we're not in Jum'ah right now. Like he just asked one question about the adhan. I just clarified it.
If you do the adhan in a particular way, you have to do iqamah.
It is best. Don't do the Hanafi adhan and the Maliki iqamah and kida. Yani don't don't do that. Like don't do like tarji' in adhan and then do like the Hanafi iqamah, like ajib, like. You know what I'm saying? Like it's strange, Now a lot of the scholars they said, right, and this is beautiful, they say that when there's multiple sahih narrations, listen to this, Maryam, this might answer your question. When there is multiple sahih narrations, right, sometimes the sunnah is to alternate between them. The sunnah is to alternate between them so that you implement all the sunnahs.
It's like why when you study Quran, you study all the Qur'an and practice all of them.
Yeah. So for example, another common example of this, and I don't want to open a door right now, but for example, one of the things that we're taught after we finish salah is the tasbih and the takbir and the tahmid, right? There are many ways to do this, right? What have you guys been taught?
33, 34.
Huh?
33, 34.
Okay, 33, 33, and 34. So you say Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, and?
Allahu Akbar 34 times.
Huh?
Allahu Akbar 34 times.
Allahu Akbar 34 times. Good. There's also another narration of. Go ahead. So.
I've never heard the Allahu Akbar 34 times.
Okay, so that's a narration, but go ahead.
It's the 33, 33, 33, and then finish it with La ilaha illallah.
Good. So this is another way. Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, Allahu Akbar 33 times, and then for the 100th you say La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahu mulku wa hamduhu wa ala kulli shay'in qadir. That's 100. Right?
We're just so religious.
Also another is 25, 25, 25, 25. Subhanallah 25 times, Alhamdulillah 25 times, Allahu Akbar 25 times, La ilaha illallah 25 times. Right? Maz, what's the other way? 10, 10, 10. How you know that? Another narration mentions saying Subhanallah 10 times, Alhamdulillah 10 times, and Allahu Akbar 10 times. فقط. هذا هو.
All sahih.
Huh? Yeah, all authentic narrations. Also, stuff that's been narrated. Now definitely the most common seems to be the first two that we mentioned, right? Of the 33, 33, 34, or the 33, 33, 33, and the 1, right? But we also find narrations of the 25s and even the 10, right? So some scholars, let me clarify, some scholars have said that when you have stuff like this, the sunnah it's good to practice the other ones, right? Now you'll find people in terms of the adhan and iqamah say this is the sunnah, right? But generally if someone they look at all of it, they'll realize that look, all of the adhan narrations seem to be authentic narrations, right? So once in a while it's good to change up the adhan, right? Now obviously, like if you're just like a regular masjid goer, then I don't recommend doing it unless you did it like with the permission of the imam or something, because you're gonna people are gonna think you're changing the religion, right? And they're gonna get really scared and they're gonna react in a very negative fashion, because they're gonna be like, right? I mean, if someone did that, right? The whole tarjih thing, Maz, right? If you walked into a masjid and someone did that and then they went back, you're like, dude, nah. Right? I was like, not Islam. I'm leaving. Right? Huh? Oh yeah. He's corrected himself now. He's corrected himself. I don't. Were you here when I told you?
No, I heard the story. I never was there to experience it.
I never noticed that. He'd been making iqamah for a long time. Then they told me, he's like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Is the taller dude?
No, he's like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then after the third Allahu Akbar, it always became like, what is he going to say? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha. But then one time he was like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Oh, he did it. Okay, Rahim Tim, you guys get that? In the adhan of Fajr, we mentioned that the word or the phrase as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm is added immediately after hayya ala al-falah. Okay? Zayd ibn Aslam, he narrates that Bilal Zayd ibn Aslam narrated that Bilal came to the Prophet ﷺ informing him about prayer. And on finding him asleep, Bilal said, prayer is better than sleep. Prayer is better than sleep. The Prophet ﷺ said, how excellent is this? Make it part of your adhan. Right? And from then it became part of the adhan. Just a common mistake many people make. I think you guys did like a practice adhan with Sheikh Ahmed many months ago, right? Is the hayya ala salah and hayya ala al-falah. Okay? Hayya ala salah, it's the soft ha, right? And hayya ala al-falah is the strong ha, right? So it should be made apparent when you make the adhan, right? So hayya ala salah and hayya ala al-falah, right? Also knowing, and you guys now, mashallah, you guys know, you guys know some Arabic and some Arab, right? But knowing, right? For example, when you connect the two phrases, Allahu Akbar, like it's more proper to say Allahu Akbar, as opposed to Allahu Akbar, right? When you connect the phrases, you say Allahu Akbar, right? And then even in the, for example, if you're doing the iqamah, right? Hayya ala salati, hayya ala al-falah, right? Hayya, you hear all kinds of stuff. Hayya ala salatu, hayya ala salata. And just like, God, harf jar, ana. Right? Don't worry. Sometimes you'll want to scream that now. You're like, harf jar. I don't ever scream that when you're lining up for praying. You hear someone make a mistake, alright? Also, perhaps I should write this. The phrase that is said in iqamah, right? And sisters don't think this is only for brothers because, like I said, some scholars have said that, there's no problem sisters making adhan and iqamah when they're by themselves or when they're a group of sisters, right? So you don't want to make a fool of yourself because people always be making a fool of themselves. قد قامت الصلاة. ها يا مريم قد قامت الصلاة. What's on the right? You say it twice, right? Correct? So, for example, you'll say, let's just, according to the Shafi'is and Hanbalis, you'll say, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, hayya ala salati, hayya ala al-falah, qad qamati salah, and I want to connect. Huh? Huh? Two? Why?
Sounds unnatural.
Because I was corrected by Sheikh Jamil. And my brother Ahmed. I think. Yeah. Why?
It's how it's coming out.
No, it's coming.
It was.
It should be Mansur.
لا.
Because of what?
قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة.
Nah.
No.
Doesn't sound right.
قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة.
I've heard two. قد قامت الصلاة.
قد قامت الصلاة. It's two. It's the fa'il.
Oh.
صلاة is the fire?
Salah is the fa'il. قد is for emphasis. قامة is the fi'l. This ta right here, right, is indicating that it's feminine because the fa'il is as-salatu. Clear? This is actually قد قامت, right? But if I ever hear one of you guys, قد قامت as-salat, lose it, okay? Because when you connect, that sukoon becomes a kasra. Got it? قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. Clear?
Like it has
Been established.
arrived or something,
But yeah, like being established.
It has been established.
So you would say this is a passive sentence?
Huh?
It's not a passive?
No, it's not.
So can you translate that? What would that mean?
Like the prayer has been established, or like the prayer is commencing, or the prayer has commenced.
So that's passive.
Not the way it's being used.
If salah wasn't there, and then it would kind of be passive. Like passive, remember we was active as
Because you could.
What is salah doing here? What is the action done? Salah
It's
established?
yeah.
Something?
The verb is not. I get in meaning it's passive. In meaning it's passive, but the verb, the way it's being used, it's active. The way the verb is being used, right? Look, if I wanted to say passive, I would say. So you have another verb, right? To call iqama is aqama yuqimu. Aqama yuqimu, right? If I wanted to make it passive, right? So I say aqama Muhammadun as-salata, like he established the prayer, or he made iqama, right? But I could say uqimat as-salah, which would mean like the iqamah has been made for prayer, right? But قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاة, like, yes, in meaning you could say perhaps it's passive, right? But it's an active verb. Like the prayer is established. Or it's commencing. Clear? We good? Alright, moving on.
For it's Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, right?
Yes. Thank you. Why? Ashhadu anna. What's anna called? حرف توكيد ونصب. Oh yeah, this is another mistake we hear a lot. أشهد أن محمدا and then huh? Yeah, don't ever mess up. What goes on the Rasul? What goes here? Huh?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah. Because the first one's mansub, which means the next one's going to be.
خبر أن, and what goes here? Why? مضاف إليه, right? Don't ever make that mistake, huh? You hear all kinds of stuff. Muhammadan and Rasulullah, because Muhammadan is the ism of Anna and Rasul is the khabar of Anna. Clear? Alright, we good? Yes? Okay. Take a short break because some of you look like struggling, and we'll continue.
It's fun. When people have so many questions. What is it? Yeah, right. Come up with a book shit. We should read this fun sentence.
And then like the different adhans, don't go try to teach people at the masjid because like you'll confuse their Islam right now. Not ready for it. But I'm gonna do it at Cyprus one of these days.
Got it. I'll come to the shot. And we'll give you a look.
Or what we'll do is one of the weeks where I'm giving khutbah, I ask you to come on time before you give adhan. Say, Brother Mustafa is going to give adhan according to the Maliki method. So I'll approve it as he gives it. Everyone's just like, huh?
Yeah, right.
We can do that.
Inshallah.
We'll use it as a teaching mechanism. I know you're going to get some amus in the back. What's that? Yeah, man.
Were you able to make a list of all the Quran?
No, I wasn't, but I will. I promise I will.
One more question. Do you know who leads the Tarawih in the Walnut Masjid?
In Walnut here? This year it will be for sure it will be a brother by the name of Hafiz Zayd.
Do you know him?
I don't know.
No?
I know him.
You know?
I'm good, man.
I know his wife.
You know his wife?
Do you ever go up to San Bernardino?
I did once last year.
My dad.
No, I went to Fontana. Sorry to be specific. I went to Fontana.
San Bernardino is an interesting setting.
Okay, let's continue. Okay, what are the sunan of the adhan? That there should be a short pause between each set of phrases. There should be a short pause between each set of phrases. The Prophet ﷺ, he told Bilal, when you say the adhan, then pause, and when you say the iqamah, then be quick. And that's where we get the whole, that the iqamah is generally said quicker. Not in a manner that people say it where like, it shouldn't be said like that, right? But it is quicker than the adhan. Also you see in the sunan, it says there's no tarji' repetition of the testimonies in the adhan, because, right? Also of the sunan of the adhan is raising one's voice and facing the qibla. Meaning facing the qibla is technically not something that has to be done in adhan, but it would just be strange, right? And then turning right and left, when saying hayya ala salah, and turning left when saying hayya ala al-falah, right? There is another way that some scholars they say that it is that you say hayya ala salah to the right, hayya ala salah to the left, and hayya ala al-falah to the right, and then hayya ala al-falah to the left, right? But that is more, I guess, uncommon. The other way is more common, of going to the right twice and then going to the left twice. Right? Maz is just like, what's going on right now? Maz is about to make 5 different events today. We only taught him 4. That's just scary. Sunan that are related to the mu'adhin. Sunan that are related to the mu'adhin. Number 1, that it's male. Okay? Because the Hanafis say it's karaha if it's extremely disliked if it's a woman, right? Number 2, purification.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Huh?
Where's
No, I'm.
So we gotta add this.
Yeah, you gotta add this.
Say it one more time.
So the first, these are sunan that are related to the mu'adhin.
To the mu'adhin themselves, not the adhan.
Yeah, not the adhan himself. Not the adhan himself.
What is the first one?
Male. Number 2, it's recommended that the mu'adhin be in a state of purification. Yes, meaning wudu. The person be in a state of ritual purity. Like if the person needed ghusl, then they may ghusl. Right? The third is not necessarily related to mu'adhin, but time.
What is that?
That-
Anything specific?
Huh? Yes.
Or
That
is
if
it-
it is said before the time, enters, it should be repeated, and it should be made after the time of prayer has entered, right? Now, obviously, like this is generally when we're talking about prayers in masajid and whatnot, right? That we talked about, I think yesterday, that sometimes I think it's in the winter where dhuhr comes in really early. A lot of masajid, there's no one there, right? So the first person that comes in might be 30 minutes, 15 minutes before Salat al-Dhuhr, and then that person makes the adhan, right? Also, you can add perhaps that, and this is not as much needed during our time, or maybe not even at all, right? But something that they would basically necessitate is that the mu'adhin is someone that is knowledgeable of the prayer times, right? Obviously, now a person just has to have the ability of working a prayer app and figuring out how to do it, right? But but back then the person had to know, has the prayer time entered, right? Specifically, right? I'm gonna mute this for a second because I need to put somebody on blast or put something on blast. So I don't want it to be recorded. But you see stuff like this, like commonly, you know, strange stuff.
Which
Huh? Yeah, no, Mike's back on.
which timetable do you suggest we get from what
Huh?
from like which masjid do you suggest we get on?
Well, it's not. It's going to be different. You use. You don't because if, for example, you live in Rancho. If you get it from here, it's going to be different.
So like San Bernardino? For me?
No, like I would say, just use your prayer app on your phone, right, and update the location wherever you are. Make sure the location is updated, right? Because you know what might happen. I'm just hypothetically, right? Just to be honest, you might be in Anaheim one night, right? You're in Anaheim one night, right? You're in Anaheim one night, and you drive to LA, right? And you pray Isha there, and like you're checking, hey, what time does fasting start tomorrow? So you update your phone, right? Your phone updates to LA, right? So then tomorrow morning, when you're back home, you're like, oh, I got 10 minutes to eat. And you're eating, right? And then you update your phone, and you realize I was supposed to stop eating 3 minutes ago, right? So it's very important to use these apps to. No, just to update the location that you're in, right? I mean, he said he forgot to change the settings, right, back from yesterday, right? It was very key that you do that because all the masajid that are giving you, they're giving you their specific location, right? So that even the calculations for these different locations, they're a few minutes off, whether it's Fajr or Maghrib. Okay, responding to the adhan, it's recommended to repeat after the mu'adhin. And we should repeat everything he says, except for when he says, "Come to prayer, come to success." Right? That's when you say, "La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah." Right? After the phrase that is said in Salatul Fajr, "As-salatu khayrun min an-nawm," right? Some scholars, some Hanafis, and other scholars, they said different things, but one thing that has been mentioned is sadaqta, that you say sadaqta, which means you have spoken the truth. Sadaqta.
What about sadaqta or baraka? What does that mean? By the way, Sheikh Ahmad al-Hadi said that, he didn't know where this came from. This is not part of the sunnah.
What? Sadaqta, yeah, to be honest, it's not found in necessarily the sunnah. Some scholars, I don't know if they have a narration to back it up, or if there's some weak hadith that they're using. Or they just, it's, a statement of affirmation. Allahu Akbar, right?
So you just repeat the same sentence?
Huh?
If you don't want to say this, just repeat it the same way?
I mean, that hasn't been narrated either, right?
It isn't?
That technically hasn't been narrated of saying as-salatu, but you can, right? Or you can just say sadaqta. Other scholars have said say sadaqta. Bararta means like you've been like righteous, kind of. Bir is like, bir is sometimes like, you're like birrul walidain, right? Being obedient and righteous to your parents, right? So barra means to like be like, it could be charitable, but also to mean pious or devoted also, right? But it wouldn't work here. Sadaqta wa barrata unit, right? Sadaqta makes sense, or you just say as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. Now Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he narrated from the Prophet ﷺ that he said, when you listen to the adhan, repeat the same words as the one who said the adhan. Right? There it's 7:26. Okay. Actually, let's stop here. There's a few more slides on this, but we'll cover this tomorrow, and then we'll start with lesson 5 as well, which will get into the conditions and the preconditions of prayer. Clear?
Salatu khayrun min an-nawm is connected, right?
Huh?
Khayrun min an-nawm?
Naam, khayrun min an-nawm. So you say khayrun min an-nawm. Min an-nawmi, huh? But not that you usually stop at those. And even for like the stuff we talked about, the sisters making adhan and iqamah, right? You might come across people, aunties, whatever, they hear you making adhan or iqam or your group is just like, oh, what are you doing is haram. Just calm down, realize like, you know, they didn't attend this session, so they didn't get it. Right?
How do you know that we're not the ones saying notice?
Huh?
I said, how do you know that we're not the ones saying notice is wrong?
I mean, it's possible, it is definitely possible, you know.
So many things we learn in this class just capture everything we learn in culture. Like we were talking about suicide the other day. And
You're talking about what?
Suicide and how when
Suicide.
yeah, and how when somebody commits suicide, they're buried. We were always told that they're buried in a separate graveyard, which is actually not the case. And their funeral prayer is not prayed and stuff like that, and that's not the case. And I was just like, what? It's crazy. I don't know, like culturally, like people just say that if somebody kills themselves, you don't bury them in the same graveyard, which is clearly not the case according to Sharia.
Or like the one who commits suicide is condemned to like hell.
Yeah, that they're not Muslim, they're out of the fold of Islam. So that's not how I think.
You missed that class?